Calling to order the regular meeting of the Stevens Point Area Public School District Board on Monday, November 24th, 6:30 p.m. Roll call and verification of quorum, please.
Ms. Baker? Mr. Ebel?
Here.
Ms. Erler?
Here.
Ms. Faxon?
Here.
Mr. Kokonowski?
Here.
Mr. Presley?
Here.
Ms. Scott?
Here.
Ms. Sherrick?
Here.
Ms. Totten?
Here.
9 members present, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming out in this beautiful weather. We need to approve the agenda. I have one request to pull out on consent agenda, pull out 7A and vote on it separately.
The other thing, for under 6C, the President's Report, if any of these items have written reports, if we can table those until the board and the public have a chance to review the reports.
The only one that has a written report is 3, and that's fine with me.
What is it?
It's the written report that's at your place.
I didn't have one. Which one was it?
It must have been when you shifted things over.
Well, what does it look like?
It's called Superintendent's,
We have a superintendent's communication review.
that one.
I didn't get that.
There's more out here.
That's about the texting and the phone call. That has nothing to do with the, oh, I apologize. I thought it was the workshop one.
So did the public get this? Is this going to be put online?
It's sitting out there. It just got finished.
Will it be put online, Amy?
If that's what the board wants.
Well, if it's part
not
of the packet.
Going to be included as part of the packet, or is it?
Whatever the board wants. Doesn't matter to me.
Okay, sure, I'll include it.
The communications review.
All right, do you want that put off until the next meeting? Are you requesting that in the agenda? Yes, I did.
No, let's discuss it.
This is my copy.
Go for it, yes.
So you're saying that you want it put off. Does that mean that under the superintendent's report, you don't want that either? Because I don't want to go, I'm not doing this twice. This is related. If you want to put it out on the web, fine. But to have this and then have, this is a report from the board president,
Yeah,
we're not going to have it 2 meetings in a row. It's one item for discussion.
Fine. If the board
That's-
approves it.
If the board approves that.
If the
they
board
wanna do
approves it,
that.
'cause
fine.
Okay, so you do not want that pulled.
Nope, that's fine.
All right, anything else on moving the agenda? Yep.
8B1, I didn't have anything in the packet about that.
You know what?
Is that going to the
It's going to business
business? Okay.
services. Yep, it'll be on the business services agenda on Monday.
Discuss it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So let's just take that off.
Are we removing that?
That?
Yep, B1. It's on the business services agenda.
All right, then
Neither Jeff or I knew that.
I would move to approve the agenda with the deletion of 8B1.
And discussing the consent agenda separate.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay, got it. I withdraw that then.
Just add that. All right, I need a motion for the approval of the agenda, minus 8B1 and separating the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Ebel?
Yes.
Ms. Erler?
Yes.
Ms. Faxon?
Yes?
Mr. Kokonowski?
Yes.
Mr. Presley?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Sherrick?
I just want clarification. Are we voting on each consent agenda item separately or just pulling out C?
Just pulling A.
Okay.
Lisa asked to
Oh.
pull A.
Just pulling A? Okay, because that's not what you said, but I will agree if that's what it is, pulling A.
Ms. Totten?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Okay, Pledge of Allegiance is next. Would you please stand with me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on our agenda is public comments. The order that you're in is Albert, Sam, Leon, and Reed, and Sam asked me ahead of time, said that he has everything written out, so he asked for extra time if he needs it above and beyond the 3 minutes. I will grant it to anybody who needs it beyond that. I'm not going to cut you off, but we are going to try to stick to 3 minutes. Albert, you're first.
I'm Albert Rocco, immediate past president of the Stevens Point Area Retired Teachers Association, 1824 Gilkay Street in the city of Stevens Point. National Education Week was observed last week. The National Education Association, NEA, and the American Legion met in 1919 to seek ways to generate support for public education. At the 1921 NEA convention in Des Moines, Iowa, representatives voted for an observance. The first American Education Week was observed December 4th to the 10th, 1921, and has been observed ever since. In this school district, it has been observed in a number of ways. In the 1990s, the district bought rolls, donuts, bagels, and cream cheese for each staff member. The superintendent invited the Stevens Point Area Retired Teachers Association, SPARTA, to pick up the items at a local store and take them to the several buildings. We accepted the invitation and arranged for 2 of us per building to deliver them to the buildings. The kitchen staff prepared coffee and tea. A number of times the superintendent wrote a letter to the editor commending district employees. At times the president of the school board wrote a similar letter. Occasionally other board members did too. After the district stopped purchasing food items, it published a display ad in color with an apple theme. Sparta complemented that effort with a similar display ad in color. Last year, the district paid for a billboard on the north side of Stevens Point observing American Education Week. This year, Sparta wrote a letter to each staff member commending them on their good work. Through cooperation between Sparta and the administration, every staff member received a copy of that letter. Other Sparta members wrote letters to the staff at the school from which they retired. 2 other Sparta members wrote letters to the editor commending district staff. Because of the election traffic, those letters may not yet have been published in the Journal, but I guess it's in the Gazette. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board.
Thank you, Albert.
May I just say, Albert, thank you. Albert, over here, thank you for all that Sparta does for our teachers in celebrating National Education Week. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sam Levin, 1021st Street, Stevens Point. Got a news flash for you, Brandy. Make sure you get this down for the City Times. Superintendent resigned. No sense beating him down anymore. You didn't get him. You didn't get your pound of flesh. He didn't go the way you wanted to. And now all you're doing is acting like he did. There's a vote of no confidence from me for this board. 15 years I've been coming here, and finally somebody got it right. Alex decided to have listening sessions, which I've been saying for years. And the first thing he says is, this is a hard job. It's a full-time job. So he throws his hat in another ring. Okay, I got it. You got a superintendent search going on. You're going to have to put some community members on that search committee. I do not believe this board is capable of doing it. I don't think this board has shown me they're capable of doing anything. They can't work together. They can't talk to each other. They can't do anything. All they can do is spend money. Let's go spend $15,000, $16,000 for a superintendent search, because none of you know how to write an ad and put it on the internet. You got no staff members who can do that either. It's easy. We'll spend the money. Don't keep spending. You don't know what Governor Koch has got up on his mind next to do to us here. It's time you start working together for the Stevens Point School District instead of against it and at it. Alex, I've seen you sit here, you ran on bullying. It was great. It's time people started listening to that. And since the first day you sat down in a chair, I've seen you bully other board members, the superintendent, and other people. It's not right. It's not good for somebody to do it to you or your kids or anybody.
Sam, please don't call it individual board members.
And I will be happy. I know you're not supposed to respond to me at this point, so anybody who wants to talk to me about this at a later time, I'm more than happy to do that. You got to start working together. You got to start working for the school district and the people here. I was the only one last election cycle who came out honestly about their feelings on the superintendent and that he should go. And the reasons, because I thought it was a personality problem. But what's been done to him is unconscionable by this board. It's no wonder nobody's going to want to take this job. Why would they? It makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Like I told Angel, maybe I ought to run again. And my campaign slogan will be, elect Sam. Can I do any worse? I don't think so. It's time you start working together for the school district instead of working on each other and against it. You're here to represent the people. The people, not only the ones here in this room now, but the people that are watching. Get involved. Call a school board member. Call the school board president. Because if you're not part of the solution, you're still part of the problem. And it's time the problem went away. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Leon, you're next.
Leon Zick, S309, County Trunkie. I'm probably going to say some of the same things I've said before to you. In 2010, the district was in trouble. So they came to all the groups and said, look, we need some help. So in 2010, we had a right to collective bargaining. We had a right to binding arbitration. In 2010, Rapids, Marshfield, Everest, and Wausau, their average increase was 2.3%. But we voted, our group at least voted, because you have to vote when you're a union, unanimously to take a pay freeze to help the district. Okay? Since 2010, the cost of living has gone up 11%, approximately. Okay, since 2010, because of Act 10, we took another about 11% cut in pay. Okay, your people now are hurting. Today, somebody asked me, well, okay, if you knew then what you know now, would you still vote it to do a pay freeze? And I said, yes, absolutely, because it was the right thing to do. You have a great staff. They care about the kids, the other staff members, and the community. And they've shown it many times. So find a way to do the right thing now. Thank you.
Thank you, Leon. Reed?
Before you start that timer, are we under this new fandangled...
We are.
Okay. I didn't prepare anything tonight because I was aware that you would probably go into effect. I wasn't sure, but it was a 5-4 vote, so the public knows that there's been this concerted effort to silence the public. And thank you to the 4 members who voted not to do that. But aware of that, I took the option that you suggested, and I contacted a board member several times to make sure that my message gets out to the public and gets out to this board. Lisa Totten, and I expect, Ms. Totten, that you are going to convey the thoughts I gave you during our discussions, that I believe you share a lot of those. And it's regarding the superintendent's comments that it's not a personality problem, it's an honesty problem. Some of you just brought up. It involves me on this issue of this phone call issue that some of you would like to dismiss. It's not a big deal. It's a big deal to me. My integrity, honesty, reputation has been aired out in public to hang, and I expect this board to pursue a remedy that I've outlined to you, and if necessary, which I hope it isn't, I will pursue it on my own. And this is the article. It says, Wetaton makes waves at November 17th school board. It was actually the 10th, where Reed Rocheleau now is in the press. But now it comes out that the statement that I did say was true. There was a call made. There was actually more than that going on. So we're going to get to the bottom of this, board, one way or the other, as I laid out. I also do not accept this report. I breezed through it. It was not available. It's unacceptable at the way it was presented. It's unbelievable, this report that the president is making. I just breezed. That's all I'm doing. I'm not going to dignify this board anymore. There's no honesty here in this board, in the administration, until this is cleaned up. And I'm going to see that it's cleaned up. I'm going to expect that this board shares my concern. And we'll find out. And I'm serious. You can smile. So, Ms. Totten, I'm expecting you to share
I will.
concerns with this board.
Thank you, Reed. All right, WASB report. Oh, sorry, we don't have a student here this evening. Emily called. Didn't want to drive in the weather. Wisconsin Association of School Boards. Meg?
Yeah, you received quite a bit of information in your packet. We wanted to get it to you ahead of time because there is quite a bit to look at. It's going to be discussed at the Policy and Legislative Committee next week, and then we hope to put it on board for that following week. But again, we wanted to give you a chance to take a look at it. It's related to promoting excellence for all, a report from the Superintendent's Task Force on the Wisconsin Achievement Gap, and the group that the report was addressed to was the School Administrators Alliance Advocating for Public Schools. So again, just information, no action needed tonight.
Thank you. All right, President's report is next. I'm going to be as brief as I can so we can move this along and I'll drive home at a safe time. When I just passed out little pieces of paper at the last meeting asking people to rank their priorities, and that all that means is that when Jeff and I are setting up and Attila are setting up workshops, how we're going to prioritize things, we needed to know how the board felt. So the results are the superintendent searches number 1, negotiations number 2, Carlson-Detman study number 3, listening sessions number 4, and consolidated task force number 5. Just want to be really clear, that doesn't mean any of them are unimportant. It's just what order we need to address them in, and people feel concerned about them. Number 2, the workshop versus a regular board meeting, open meetings law, different ramifications. What this is, initially when I became president, I asked Mike Jilka what the difference was between a regular board meeting and a workshop. And the gist of what I got from the conversation is a workshop is informal. There's a lot more go back and forth. It's just conversations. It's trying to figure things out. When I spoke to him again and just asked him, he said, it doesn't really sound like we have those. As long as we have action on the agenda, it is not a workshop. It is an agenda item. Everything has to be an agenda item. So unless we had a workshop where all we did was sit down and share information, it's a board meeting. So that's the clarification on that.
Can
Yep.
I ask a question? So then are we saying we're having 2 board meetings a month then, or how are we, or aren't we clarifying?
We have to say it that way. I
Okay.
guess I would like, the second one will always have less on it, I hope.
Okay.
So we can attack things
Which
a
is
little
fine.
better.
I just wondered, okay, thank you.
And the second one is the one that's negotiable, like if ever, like in December.
But
It's
when
gonna
we're
fall
doing
around
action,
Christmas.
it's
If there is action taken, it's a board meeting.
Thank you.
Yep. Contacting legal counsel, evening of October 13th to 14th, I wrote a written report. Just what I saw, it's observations, is not intended to be a judge and jury. I just gave it out. There are copies out there if the public wants to see it, and as requested, we'll put it on the website. Legality of electronic communications during board meetings. Asked about this too. There's nothing, no laws have been written, there are no precedents, that sort of thing. So what Mike said is we need to be very cautious. Any communication between board members can be considered questionable, as in like open quorum stuff, like, will you vote for this, that sort of thing, because people don't know what we're saying. I specifically asked him, because I actually do email Amy a lot during meetings, can you get this paper, did you print this off, that sort of thing. He said that is completely different. I can do that, so FYI. If you have a question to the secretary, that's fine. So he said be cautious about using electronic devices to communicate with each other during board meetings. If you have a question or if you have a comment, you should make it out loud. Update on negotiations. I just have 2 dates. These are both SBAEA, December 18th from 6 to 8, January 13th from 6 to 8. There are no other dates set.
What were those 2 dates?
Sorry. December 18th, January 13th. Yep,
Angel, did you ask?
I did.
Okay.
That's all. That's
Leanne,
on.
we didn't send anything up, did we, with Ask Me? Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
We asked about it, but we haven't gotten any.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Leanne. Sorry about that.
Yep. American Education Week, I just wanted to take a moment to publicly thank our staff. We have an incredible staff. I did write a letter that was emailed out to everybody, and it was actually, I struggled really hard with writing it, but got a lot of positive feedback, and I appreciate that, and I want each one of you to know how grateful I am for what you do for my children, for all the children in this district. This is an awesome district, and we really appreciate you as a board. That is it.
And just a comment, Angel.
Yep.
And I did just forward the word excellent to you. I think you did a really, really nice job. You covered a lot of areas, and I was thinking a lot of the things that you said, things that we don't always go out and talk to people about, but kudos to you, because I think you did a great job on that.
Thank you.
I do have a question about something, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no problem.
Is about number 4. I really think that needs to stop. And if we could put it on the board member, I don't think we should be emailing, period, during a board meeting, period. And that's why I'm so against those, and the phone sitting there. There is no reason why we're doing that and getting emails. I believe it should stop completely, and we need to put it on the board to vote on it. I mean, on the agenda, because it's unacceptable to me. So,
Right, so you're requesting an agenda item?
yes.
And I already have requested that be an agenda item.
Well, I got the question answered, which is what I thought you wanted done.
No, when I fill out a agenda request, that means I actually want it to be on the agenda.
I mean, our full attention should be to the agenda items here versus emailing people back and forth.
Angel?
Yeah.
Yeah, if we're going to do that, there are a number of times when board members are having conversations. I've heard a board member stand back and say, do you want to make the motion? So if you're going to have those kind of conversations between more board members at a meeting, that's going to have to be included. Or you're writing notes to each other during the meeting, or checking information with each other during the
Well,
meeting.
let's do the whole discussion about communication during board
Thank you.
meetings.
I appreciate it.
Yep. All right, superintendent's report is next.
Just there were a few items, and again, my explanation and apologies to the board and to Reed. I didn't have a conversation with an attorney that night or with Mike Jilka. I left a message, as my documents indicate, and again, I apologize. I checked my phone, and as indicated in the memo, There were two ways that you can find both memos, telephone messages and texts, and I didn't know the other way. So I apologize for the confusion and for indicating that I did not make that call. I did. I made an email and a text. And again, and as I explained, I think I was in a mode of I wouldn't say panic, but very deep concern about the fact that the board was unable to approve the monthly bills. So I'd be glad to take any questions about what I wrote.
Questions?
I just have a statement to read. Okay. At the last board meeting, it was voted 5-4 to limit public input at board meetings, and the excuse was given that the public can and should contact board members. Reed Rochlow has done just that. Contacted me several times and is furious that not only is his honesty and character being publicly questioned by the superintendent and board, it has boiled over into the press. He wants to know, what is the board going to do about it? Someone was not telling the truth, and it is now obvious it is not Mr. Rochlow, but the superintendent of schools. It is also obvious that the president of the school board was aware that the superintendent's written statement to the board in his report that he did not call any attorney on the evening of October 13th was untrue, as she was emailed the next morning by our attorney apologizing for missing the call at 5:36 a.m. Perhaps the superintendent, president, and some board members would like to pass this off as no big deal. However, let me impress upon you, this is not only a big deal to me, but this is a big deal to Mr. Rochlow. His honesty, character, and reputation are being publicly questioned. He informs me that if the board fails to take immediate action, he will. He will, if necessary, pursue any and all legal remedies available, which will obviously not only include reimbursement for his legal expenses, but penalties as well. Mr. Rochlow stresses it is not his desire to involve the school district in the expense of litigation and has offered an opportunity to avoid the possibility. 1, the immediate dismissal of the superintendent with no pay or benefits, the immediate resignation of the school board president, the immediate resignation of any board member or staff that was or is complicit in the superintendent's attempt to ameliorate, cover up, or excuse his original position and statement that he did not call any attorney. And now that this has been proven false, accept his outrageous excuse. He was so distraught, he instinctively not only called but emailed the attorney. And 4, a public explanation and apology from the remaining board members. I agree with Mr. Rochlow. This board should immediately address and remedy this matter. We cannot allow the necessity for a citizen to pursue this on their own.
Any other comments?
Chris does.
I do.
Yes.
You know, I know that one of the things that are on our agenda is what to do next in the search for a superintendent. I know some people from other districts who have talked to me about our board meetings and said they've watched, they've listened, and we don't have a great reputation as a board. If we are really serious, and I know some board members have voted not to have a superintendent, but I tell you now that if someone makes a mistake over the last year, the treatment, when you talk about being disrespectful of a superintendent, I'm just asking board members to please keep this in mind. Every potential candidate that is looking at our board and our district is hearing everything you say. And they are saying, is this a board, is this a district that I want to invest my life in, even though we have great schools? Is it worth it to me watching what's going on here? So I ask you to please keep it in mind that our mission is to prepare each student to be successful. That's what we should be doing. We should be talking about that. And we're really not talking about that very much. If we're going to take up time going through every single item, trying to search and destroy or find a mistake or find an error, if that's what we want to be about, I guess we can do that. But think about that when we look for characteristics and attributes that we want for the leader of this district. They're watching. They're watching what we do, and we are not being focused on student achievement, which is why we're supposed to be here. So I ask you to consciously think about that, because those words that come out are sent all over the state, and they're sent to our search firm. So please think about that. What you do, people are expecting. That's the behavior. That's the treatment they're going to get when they come here.
Kim? Basically, I went to meetings too, and our school board is unfortunately a laughing joke, and it's because of our leadership. It really is. That's what I've been told from other superintendents in the area. And I think that if we don't put our foot down, we can't afford to do this again. We can't afford for our superintendent to throw members of our school board underneath the bus over and over and over again and lie and get away with it. Maybe not a full lie, but not telling the full truth and saying they should know about it. And now throwing our community members underneath the bus. He clearly said it. Now, do we get an apology? We get one in here. We don't get one in the paper that he expects every time we have to if we make an error. And I'm not saying anybody is perfect, but we need a leader that is trustworthy, that when they say something and they bring it to us, we don't have to flip over every rock, every word. That's what I've learned with sitting in this spot for 4 years. And I know, Chris, you've been here for 13 years, and look where our district has gone.
Right, in the last few years.
Down it's gone in 13 years.
The last 3
Anywho,
years.
I'm not doing that. So anyways, we need a leader, and I don't think we'll have any problem doing a leader, but I do believe we need to have a special session on this, and we need to do it, because if he's doing this to the people in the public, what is he doing behind closed doors that we don't know that anything is under $20,000? What is he getting through that we don't know about?
So obviously, other superintendents are listening to that, Kim.
I know they are.
Good.
And they're laughing right along with you, Chris.
Right.
Lisa?
Well, just to clarify something, Chris, you are the one common denominator about all the turnover we've had in superintendents, so let's not put it on just the last few years. Secondly, are you saying that going after a public
I'm not going
member's
to continue. I'm not going to
reputation-
answer. I'm done with the conversation because we need to move forward. We actually have work for the school district, so I'm not going to respond.
So are we going to, as the board president, you have the ability to do something? Are we as a board going to take care of this? I mean, this is not just something to put under the table and ignore.
Actually, the vice president and I talked about it today, and we'll make a decision together. All right, any other questions or comments on the superintendent's report? All right, then we are on to the consent agenda. We are pulling out letter A separately, so I need a motion to vote on 7A, and then a separate motion for B and C.
So move.
Second. On which one?
Pull out, you wanted to pull out A?
We already voted on that.
So we're just
So approving A.
approving A,
A is separate, yes.
7A, out of the consent agenda.
It's just the minutes.
All right, so it's the minutes from the November 10th meeting.
Right, first regular November meeting.
Questions or comments?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, under D1, under technology, there were 2 abstains. I was one of the abstains, and I would like it to be noted, the reason I abstained was because I didn't receive the documents in time to read them ahead of time. In addition to that, under agenda item, do you have that, Amy?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Under 7E6, I requested for the record that it be read that at 4:32:56 of the October 13, 2014 meeting, Attila Winiger stated, we had a couple of breaks, we can't make the same motion twice, so that the board did earlier was not legal. So I don't know what you're going to do, but I just want you to know that you can't make the same motion twice, and I would like that put in the minutes for the record.
What was that under?
That was under 7E6.
I don't have a 7.
Yeah, the superintendent's report.
Correct.
Oh,
On page 2
oh,
of
there we
7.
go, 7E, okay.
All right, so those are requests.
Correct.
I think we have to bring them back for a vote since it's additions to the minutes.
It would be to revise the motion to approve, or to amend the motion to include those two statements.
Correct.
Okay.
So you need to make a motion second and move through. with
But
it.
we already have a motion and a second on the table.
Right, so
But
it's
you
to
can make an
amend the motion.
Okay.
Then I would like to amend the motion to include both clarifications into the minutes.
Amy, what page is that second request on?
2 of 7.
Yes, page 2 of 7, right after the recess, or right before the recess. I'd have to go back and listen.
Help me out here.
I'll second it.
All right, so we need a roll call vote. This is on the amendment, and this is to add the two comments that Lisa asked to be added on the minutes.
Could you please repeat that second one?
The second one was actually my statement that I made that night, and I asked that night that it be reflected in the record, as, you know, you've done and other board members have done in the past, and it wasn't in the minutes. So what it is that same statement in response to the superintendent's report, because the way we do things, the superintendent is allowed to put things in, but we don't have an opportunity to respond. We discussed it in the past with Jeff Presley. That was no longer supposed to be taking place, but clearly that didn't happen. So I'm asking that this statement, which is in response to the superintendent's report, be included, which is at 4:32:56 of the October 13, 2014 meeting, Attila Winiger stated, since we had a couple of breaks, we can't make the same motion twice. So what the board did earlier was not legal. So I don't know what you're going to do, but I just want to know that you don't make the same motion twice. So what it is just, like I said, I went back and listened to the tape, and I want that to be part of the record.
So you want the information that Robert's rules does not allow the same motion to be made twice? Basically, that's what it is, correct?
No, basically, I had said that he made a statement to me that I couldn't make the same motion again. And in the next minutes, he said he didn't say that. It was stated in these minutes, and whoever's clicking their pen can, thank you. And he said he never said that. And she went back in the records and found it. So.
So we need to vote on the amendment first, and then we'll vote on,
I also have an amendment, but I'll wait on mine until this is done.
okay.
Mr. Kokonowski?
Yes.
Mr. Presley?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
No.
Ms. Sherrick?
Yes.
Ms. Totten?
Yes.
Ms. Baker?
No.
Mr. Ebel?
No.
Ms. Erler?
No.
Ms. Faxon?
No.
Motion fails 4-5.
I've got a question on this. Can I ask a question?
Well, Meg had an amendment first. Can she
Well,
put
this
hers
is
in?
about
Alex
the
can ask
last,
that one.
right.
You can ask.
So during a meeting, for instance, if I ask for something to be added to the record, that it's going to be in the minutes, it should end up there if I ask, is that correct?
No, all we put in the minutes are the votes, and so if someone wants to add a statement, like the statements that Kim and Lisa read and that you used to read, we include because they explain why you're doing it, but otherwise, all that's supposed to be in the minutes is the votes.
All right.
Yes, Meg?
I'm going to request a change to the minutes as I have in the past. Based on what the recommendation of council, I requested that Lisa Totten respond as to whether, because she was recusing herself, if she was going to leave the room, and she said no. I think it's important in this situation because we had two board members who recused themselves from negotiations. One was Alex Kokanowski, who recused himself and left the room throughout our conversations, and the other was Lisa Totten, who recused herself and refused to leave the room. Again, the reason that this is important to have on the record is because the attorney has indicated for liability purposes for this board, it is important that we make clear that Ms. Totten is choosing to not leave the room during closed session on negotiations with respect to SPAEA, of which her husband is a member, and that's important that it be on the record.
Angel, again, the same question. So in this circumstance, it should also be not on the minutes.
In this circumstance, if Meg were to write a concise, short sentence that she would read, like the ones we include for you, then it would be appropriate.
Okay.
And it would be the same language that has been in the minutes the last two times this has happened.
But today it's not appropriate, if I'm understanding what you're telling me.
No, today all I want is
I'm
the
asking
specific
Angel.
language.
I will vote against it because I need a concise, short, written statement.
All right.
Then I would ask Amy to add into the minutes the specific language. I wasn't asking all that information I just said. I was explaining to you why I'm doing it. All I want is a specific language indicating that Ms. Totten recused herself and refused to leave the room during negotiations. That's all I want, which we as a board have approved the last two times it has occurred, and it is what the attorney, and I can read you the language in the...
It's okay. What I need you to do, though, is say that statement before we go into closed session, because that can be put in minutes.
And that was the statement.
So if you'll just say that statement.
Yes.
Okay, so...
Did you say it then?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I just asked.
Repeat it, please.
That Ms. Totten, I asked if she would, Ms. Totten recused herself from the closed session. I asked her if she was going to leave the room, and Ms. Totten recused herself from the closed session, but refused to leave the room.
Okay, so, yes.
My question is, just for clarification, is how do you get something like that put in there? Is it because a lawyer said so versus what she's asking? So if she comes back and says, her lawyer says it should be in there, I mean, we can't pick and choose. We didn't vote on having what she said in there.
I'm not, again, attorney.
Again, Amy's raising her hand. I'm just, go ahead.
I include neither of those items because it's something that the board needs to determine it should or should not be included, and I don't have the decision ability to make that. Which is why you did request it be included, and I said you'd need to make it as a motion at the next meeting. Same with Meg, I told her the same thing. It's, the only things I include are your statements regarding, I prefer to do this in open, but no, those statements, because you say them every time.
Yep.
And it would be silly for us to have to make a motion to amend the minutes every time based on that. So that's how I do the minutes.
Although I will make it very clear, I will be saying the same thing every time as long as Ms. Totten is recusing herself and remaining in the room in light of
So you're just
recommendation from council. That's all I'm asking, that Ms. Totten recused herself and remained in the room during the closed session.
Okay, then I'm going to ask at the beginning of closed session, just read that sentence, okay? Have it a written comment that you can hand to Amy, like everybody else did. I understand that you did say it, but then it would be included as a part of the minutes. Does everybody understand the difference? Okay.
Yes.
So Meg is asking for that statement to be added to the minutes because she did say it. And from this point on, we'll read that statement before we go into closed session.
And if any board member wants any other clarifications or anything put in, the board will decide whether it goes in. Am I understanding that right?
At that time.
I don't understand exactly what you're referring to. I had to ask about this situation specifically because you guys read a statement before closed session,
Okay,
and we thought it was we didn't know if it was appropriate to put it in the minutes or not.
okay.
Mike said yes, if it's a written statement that you're going to use every time.
Okay, so those are the ones that you're putting in the minutes?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
So are you making a motion?
She did.
I am making a motion, yes.
All right.
To include the sentence of, would you please read it, Amy?
I have what I've included before is Ms. Erler requested that Ms. Totten leave the room due to recusal conflict of interest. Ms. Totten refused to leave the room.
I will second that motion.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Presley?
Abstain.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Sherrick?
Yes.
Ms. Totten?
Yes.
Ms. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Ebel?
Yes.
Ms. Erler?
Yes.
Ms. Faxon?
Yes.
Mr. Kokonowski?
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0 with 1 abstention.
Okay, now we need B and C. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, we still have an original motion on the table for letter A with the one amendment.
But we just passed that.
No, we just
We passed the amendment.
Just the
Now we have to
amendment.
pass the.
Now we have to
with the
pass A.
amendment.
Yeah.
I'll move approval of the minutes as amended.
They've already been moved in
Okay,
second.
I need a second.
Second.
Sorry, and, yep, you have a question?
Point of order, I
it's
think we
complete- we already did that.
We already did that.
Motion and a second.
Yeah.
The original motion was out there, and then we
Yeah.
did
Got
two
it, got it,
amendments,
sorry.
so we can
Okay,
just-
roll call vote.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Sherrick?
No.
Ms. Totten?
No.
Ms. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Ebel?
Yes.
Ms. Erler?
Yes.
Ms. Faxon?
Yes.
Mr. Kokonowski?
Yes.
Mr. Presley?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-2.
All right, we have B and C. Need a motion to approve those.
Move to approve items 7, B, and C from the consent agenda, minutes from the November 18th special session meeting, and an easement agreement with the Village of Plover for a fire hydrant at Plover Whiting Elementary School.
Second.
Any questions or comments on B and C? Kim? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
Trish.
sorry.
I just basically want just a little clarification. I know I read through this. It's just basically, can someone give me a little explanation on 7C?
When we had the sprinkling system installed, there needed to be a fire hydrant located. If we don't give the village a permanent easement, then we'll have to pay a monthly fee and maintain that hydrant, and it's a lot easier to have the village do it than us.
Is it something new that we just found out since we put the sprinkler system in, or is it something, so when we,
Just as soon as we got this information, in fact, we got it after the last board meeting, we brought it forward.
okay, just as the steps we went through to add the building and do the sprinkler system, now they said we need a fire hydrant.
Well, I just became aware of it, I think Tom did as well.
Okay. Kind of an odd way of doing it, but, okay. Thank you.
So, call me picky, but I really struggle with that word men, and would make a motion to change the third word in the easement from the word men to the word people or persons.
What would you prefer? Trish?
Persons.
Persons, got it. This is from the Village of Plover, so we'll be glad to help
Maybe that
them,
explains
help them
why
to
it's
become more
ancient
gender equity.
language.
There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Careful.
All right, I need a
Bridges.
second.
I'll second that.
Okay, so roll call vote on the amendment, which is to switch the word men to persons.
Ms. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Ebel?
Yes.
Ms. Erler?
Yes.
Ms. Faxon?
Yes.
Mr. Kokonowski?
Yes.
Mr. Presley?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Sherrick?
Yes.
Ms. Totten?
Yes.
Amendment carries 9-0.
Thank you.
Anything else? Then we need to vote on B and C.
Mr. Ebel?
Yes.
Ms. Earler?
Yes.
Ms. Faxon?
Yes.
Mr. Kokonowski?
Yes.
Mr. Presley?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Sherrick?
Yes.
Ms. Totten?
Yes.
Ms. Baker?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
All right, we're on to 8B2, the approval of a memorandum of understanding between Habitat and District.
The board has a memo in front of it, as well as a memorandum of understanding and agreement, which also includes a release and waiver of liabilities and for minors. And it's a project that Brigida Altman has been working on with the Habitat for Humanity. We're very grateful that they they may even put it forward themselves to work with our advanced construction students. So we're very excited about the project, and as soon as the board approves it, they can get started.
Move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the Central Wisconsin Habitat for Humanity and the district as as presented. Second. And attached.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
I have one question. Is this, every year, the Habitat for Humanity builds a house with students, is this MOU identical to previous ones?
We haven't had one before, at least in recent times with Habitat. I think as a result of conversations that Brigida's had with Habitat and trying to get, and the teacher, trying to get kids more involved in hands-on things outside of the building, I think that's where it arose from. They may have had it in the distant past, Trish, but not in the last 4 or 5 years.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make a comment for people who don't know out there. I mean, this is to allow 20 advanced SPASH students enrolled in the building construction course under the supervision of Habitat and our teachers to design and construct Habitat-owned homes. And to me, it's a win-win, because it's not only hands-on, but it's also service learning. And I think both of them are very important, and they're part of what we as a district, as a board, have set up as objectives that we want our students to be involved in. So I give a lot of credit to the people that I'm sure put a lot of hours into pulling this thing together.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please. Oh, I'm sorry, Kim.
I do want to let you know this did happen before. When my kids were there, they built, when I was in school, they did it. I do give a lot of credit for Brigida to redoing it. Also, I know a gentleman that has spoke here, doesn't want me to bring his name up, that spoke here before when the Life Skills Center came into play, and one of our administrators said that he would not walk into a building that our students built. They got working with it, and I think if this could have came into play a long time ago, we could have saved ourselves hundreds of thousands of dollars with what we're putting out. So I'm glad this is starting now. I wish they would have did it before with the help from general contractors in our area. This is how this is coming to play. And they have spoken in front of this board saying that they would help with this. So I do want to give Brigida, our district, a lot of credit, and the people that work with Habitat from our own community that will help our students and our district grow. So thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Earler?
Yes.
Ms. Faxon?
Yes.
Mr. Kokonowski?
Yes.
Mr. Presley?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Sherrick? Ms. Totten?
Yes.
Ms. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Ebel?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
All right, next is the request for an additional bilingual educational assistant, FTE, full-time equivalent, and is that you again?
Yeah, I think there's some pretty detailed information there regarding the need for an additional bilingual EA time. Our bilingual or ELL population is growing in the district, and sometimes we don't know that those kids are coming, and they come at the beginning of the year after the year started, or certainly after staffing has gone into effect. So we're asking for an additional 3.5 hours, which will combine with another 3.5-hour position, try to make a whole position to try to attract, or 3.25, I'm sorry, and try to attract somebody to do that full-time.
If I could make a motion to approve an additional 3.25 hours of bilingual educational assistant time at Plover Whiting and Roosevelt Elementary Schools.
I'll second.
All right,
I just have, go ahead, Trish.
That's a good question. At this point right now, we have 7.6 FTE bilingual teachers
Teachers.
yeah,
Right.
but educational assistants.
No,
Okay.
teachers.
Teachers, okay. And we're only voting to add 3.25 hours?
No, we are requesting 3.25 hours of bilingual EA time.
Okay, right?
We have 7.6 teacher FTE time. We have quite a bit of EA time already, so that the two times are separate. There's one teacher and one EA, so we're asking for 3.25 EA time.
Okay, just hours?
Correct, because we have an open position at PJ Jacobs, and we're going to combine those to try to create a full-time position. Because we're unable to attract an EA, Trish, with just 3.25 hours. So this way it'll be virtually full-time.
Okay,
It'll be easier for us to acquire somebody.
sure, yes.
But it's not teacher FTE, it's EA.
Right, yeah, yes, I said teacher, I meant EA, right, got it, okay.
Meg, did you have a question?
Yeah, my only comment is just a standing request. I think when we're getting these position requests coming in, and I know this one is we're not talking a lot of hours, but I think it's helpful to have the fiscal cost. I'd like to see that. I know I've asked for it the last couple times. Just as a standard practice, if we can have 3.25 or whatever, and that's what the additional amount in the budget's going to be, just to do that on a regular basis.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've been asking that since I've been on the board, is when you bring something forward, give us a cost. So thank you for coming back. Maybe it might happen now finally, so thank you. So,
Any other questions?
and I apologize, and Trish, I think you were questioning why only 3.25 hours. I mean, that's if I was reading your body language. I mean, that's, if we need it, great, which is,
It's such a small amount.
that's what I mean.
Right.
Yeah, so. Any other questions or comments? All right, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Kokonowski?
Yes.
Mr. Presley?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Sherrick?
Yes.
Ms. Totten?
Yes.
Ms. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Ebel?
Yes.
Ms. Erler?
Yes.
Ms. Paxton?
Yes?
Motion carries 9-0.
Okay. Where are we? Board secretary job description? Did you entrust those to me? Amy?
It's in the packet.
I had written ones, or I had, so everybody could have one. If we wanted to, here we go. All right, I'm just going to pass these out. If we want to go through this, it might be easier for people to be able to scratch on paper. 5.
Isn't it in the packet?
It's in the packet.
Yeah, I
it's in
don't
the packet.
I know, but they have electronic packets. Oh, look at you.
Sorry.
It's already printed, so.
Trying to be helpful.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay,
The secretary does it.
so we want to go through this. Because this job has changed to full-time, additional duties are going to be added, and maybe some would be removed. So we were going to go through this kind of line by line and see if it's what we wanted, and if there's anything we wanted to add.
Yeah, before we move forward with that, is it necessary, because of the way the decision was made to go to full-time, that we actually take an action? Because I know Chris had mentioned last time that we hadn't decided it, and I emailed you because I was under the impression we had decided it. Is that necessary to do a formal vote, or no?
I don't think
I can
so.
answer that.
Oh, okay.
The board never formally acted on it.
Correct.
So if the board is going to approve a full-time board secretary position, the board needs to formally take a vote on that. The meeting at which, the previous meeting at which the position description was sort of discussed, Angel went around the table and asked if there were any changes to or additions to the position description or anything that people wanted. And I watched that segment several times, actually, and there was no formal vote ever taken. So if the board wants to, the board doesn't have to vote on the position description, the board has to vote on the position.
Okay.
Okay, but I don't think we can today. Is that right? Because it's not on here.
Not posted that way.
All right, so we need to put that on the next one. Let's go through this. Let me, how do you guys want to handle this? You want me to just read it and we'll decide yes, yay, nay on that line?
Sure.
All right. Position purpose, provide administrative and clerical support to the Board of Education. Okay. Say if you want me to stop. All right, essential functions, provide administrative and clerical support to the board.
I think that can be eliminated, you just said it.
It is the purpose of the position.
I mean, I don't think that needs to be restated.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Did Florence Haley, our HR director, write this?
No, this is what's been there for a while.
Has she approved this?
She wouldn't be in the position to approve this particular one, Trish. That's the board to do,
Okay.
because it's directly a board position. But Florence, did you review the position description for the board secretary at all?
I did review it, but I didn't make any changes necessarily to it.
Okay.
Can I ask, if you, Florence, if you had carte blanche, would you have made any changes to it?
I don't think that's a fair.
You're putting her on a spot.
Okay.
Board needs
Yeah,
to decide
yeah,
what
okay.
you want to do with the position.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so do we want to keep the line, provide administrative and clerical support to the board? I agree it's redundant, but I think it explains a function, where the other one is just a purpose.
Doesn't hurt anything to keep it in there. Instead of reading each line, can you just say like 2, 3, 4 for,
Yeah, but I need to get an answer.
okay. I say keep one as it is.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's a keep, change, keep or change?
Keep.
Kim?
I don't care.
Keep it? Keep, all right. 2. I'm going to let you all read it to yourselves. Yes, okay, Lisa.
Like for the end of it, when it talks about taking and describing the minutes, to also include all gatherings when a potential of a quorum exists.
That's a good idea.
All gatherings?
Well, there are times, it says that prepare legal notices and agenda in that second sentence for school board committee meetings and closed sessions. There was a gathering with Ron Kind that was not posted, and so board members were asked not to attend so that we didn't hit the quorum. So if I think it's the board secretary's job to make sure if something like that happens again, if there's a gathering, that it be posted, if there's a potential for a quorum. Does that make sense?
Would be such as the listening sessions.
Well, yeah, the
Yeah,
listening
'cause listening
sessions,
session would be
when
a
Ron
gathering.
Kind came, any gatherings.
So that would just be adding, I put, in all gatherings when a potential quorum exists?
When a potential of a quorum exists.
May exist, actually.
Right.
May exist. Okay, so, yes, add?
Yep.
Add?
I'm good with it.
I just want to know, this might be something to, I hate to say it, but this might be something to run past council, only because I'm thinking like the Wisconsin Association of School Board, when we were down there at the conference, and a quorum of us were there, and a quorum of us were present, but I don't know that if a quorum exists, if we are not conducting school board a meeting, or if we aren't discussing anything that's related to school board matters, I don't know that you need an official transcription of what's happening. Because otherwise, we'd be saying that Amy would have to be down at a conference if 5 out of 9 of us were going to be there, and she'd have to be keeping minutes. So I guess I'd like clarification from an attorney as to kind of what that magic thing is with respect to a quorum being there, that it would be important to have the board secretary present.
I just know that I got a call from the superintendent that it wasn't posted properly, so, yes.
Okay, so I kind of got a general consensus, but I'm going to ask legal counsel on that one. Yes?
Yep.
All right. Number 3,
Fine.
Yes, good.
4,
Yes.
I would suggest that the board add with the board president and school district attorney. I think that the limit of, I think it's important that a board officer be involved when contacting legal counsel along with a board secretary.
I would agree.
Yes, I do too.
Well, and I just had a note that also it could be kind of also an as directed. I mean, there might be a reason that the president would want the school board secretary to contact an attorney to arrange travel to come up here for a meeting or a workshop or something for us, but I would think we at least want to note as directed by school board president.
All right, does that satisfy it, as directed by board president? I put it after the word issues.
It's fine.
All right, prepare school board packets, blah, 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 sorry, 5.
I think that can be eliminated because it's included in number 6.
I agree.
Yep, I agree.
I would offer that number 6, that the administrative assistant and PR coordinator really doesn't have anything to do with the board packet anymore if there's going to be a full-time board secretary. We do offer assistance, but it's becoming increasingly the receptionist.
So what you're saying is it should really, for number 6, should be work with the president and vice president in order to effectively prepare?
No, I'm suggesting that it say work with, well, the person doesn't work, I don't know how to phrase this.
How about-
The board secretary is primarily responsible for putting the packet together and gets assistance from administrative assistants in the building in terms of the material for the packet. So I guess if I were writing this, I would say prepare and distribute board and board committee packets with the assistance of Bliss Center administrative assistants in a timely and thorough way.
Okay, or we can eliminate 6, keep 5, and just add and seek assistance as needed at the end of it. Prepare school board packets, distribution of such, and seek assistance as needed.
And then you need, if you do that, include in number 5 to include the committees,
The committee packets, too.
because that's not in number 5.
Okay, well, it was a suggestion, not a,
The current position doesn't do the committee packets. That's the admins for that particular area.
So Jenny for educational services, Jenny
Right.
does.
Carlin
Right.
for business.
But it would be important to say with this, rather than seek assistance, Angel, I would say with assistance from Bliss Center administrative assistants.
So while they create it, are you the one who distributes it
I have
to
nothing
us?
to do with the committee packets.
Okay, so
They come
you-
straight from the admins for that area.
Okay.
Yeah, but she's not full-time now. Are we putting that on the full-time?
Oh, yeah. Are we taking it away from the admin?
I think they prefer, because it's their group, their person that they're working with, it's just easier. I mean, that's been the impression I've gotten. Is that, okay. Okay, so prepare school board packets and distribution of such, say that again, please.
Sure, prepare school board packets and distribution of such with assistance from cabinet administrative assistants.
Okay, and then scratch 6.
Right.
We all, yes?
Although I like the last language, which is the in a thorough and timely way. I think that's what,
Let's just add that. All right, 7.
I think that can actually be added to 2, because 2 is when we talk about the minutes.
Oh, that's a good idea.
You're saying strike that, Lisa?
No, I'm saying move it to be incorporated into number 2.
They can transcribe minutes.
Just add that line
Just
in
add
the
that
2.
sentence. Yeah. Yes? Okay. 8.
I think that first sentence can be eliminated, and I think the second part covers it all.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I would suggest that you eliminate the word administrative operations and say in general board operations.
All right, so that is eliminating the first sentence, switching the word from administrative to board.
Yep,
Yes, yes,
good.
yes, okay. 9.
Fine. Perfect the way it is.
I had a question. Addition would be, are we as a board going to be look to the board secretary to set up workshops and to make those arrangements? I'm not sure how it's been done in the past, whether that's handled through the board secretary to contact, potential speakers or potential, I guess whatever we would need in order to have an effective workshop.
I think it falls under the
Other duties?
other duties.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Put
think
under
it's a evolving thing as we have someone to add it if we need to. All right, yes.
I had a few that I thought we could consider adding if we wanted to, now that we're making this a full-time position. And that would be to act as support to the meeting chairs in relation to proper order in Robert's rules. Amy has been doing that already, and I think that's a real plus. So I don't know if we want to add that to the job description.
Say that again?
To act as support to the meeting chairs, so like whoever's running the meeting in relationship to proper order in Robert's rules.
Do you, support by physically being at these? Amy, you don't have to go to committee meetings right
She
now,
is.
do you? You are there?
I do the
Yeah, she
minutes.
does the transcriptions.
Oh,
And she
gotcha.
helps us already.
Act as support to meeting chairs with Robert rules and what?
Proper order.
For order? All right, everybody.
Meeting order.
Yeah, well, why don't you add in board president, too, for board meetings?
Yep. Meeting chairs.
And I considered that the meeting chair.
Oh.
Because I didn't
I
say
see what you-
committee
right,
or full board, I just said meeting chair, so. The other one, I thought, again, whether we wanted to add it or not, was the posting of all meetings, et cetera. I know currently, like negotiations goes to Flo. If we want to have all meetings, just that the board, there might be a quorum at or whatever, that's just our board secretary's job. And then other administrative staff wouldn't have to, worry about that. That was just a thought I had.
Is that logical, do you think? I'm asking the two of you who kind of have to do it. Would it be a logical thing for you to post those, or does it make more sense for the person?
I'm not involved in this.
Right.
Currently.
What's the
It's
question?
about a
I'm
position.
sorry.
Posting, like how Florence posts negotiations meetings, kind of
Right.
putting that responsibility on the board secretary?
The board secretary, she has the responsibility to post any meeting of the board. I think that help me out, Tom and Florence, your offices post the notices for the committee meetings?
I think
Yep.
they should.
Yeah. So we handle that internally. I think the board secretary's responsibility would be for any workshop, depending on what the board decides to do with listening sessions, any
say-
meeting.
It has it into that prepare legal notices and agenda material for the board, school board, board committee meetings, and board, so I mean, we have it in there for the committee,
I
so
think you
I'm just
could
saying.
remove the committees. It's a lot easier for the offices to do it when they're getting their packets together.
Where is that? Okay.
Number 2.
We're on number 2. Prepare legal notice agenda mail for school board. So just cross out board committee meetings?
Right.
Yes?
Yes, at both.
Sorry,
both
not you.
senses.
I'm yesing
sorry.
them.
Apologize.
I would say yes, because I think it doesn't add an extra step for them. They know what's going to be posted, for them to go from them to her.
Okay.
to
And see,
us.
yeah, I prefer that the board secretary be the one.
Do we want to make it the secretary's responsibility to make sure that that is happening? Because ultimately, it's not going to happen if someone forgets along the way.
She's not going to know.
I don't know that I'd want to put that as a job description function, but it could be an expectation. I mean, like holding them accountable, you mean?
Right.
For someone else's,
They're not in this, the board secretary's not in a supervisory role.
yeah. I don't know, what do you guys think?
I think it should stay the way it is. She should be doing our things, and I think the administrators should be responsible. If they're setting up that meeting, they should do it.
Technically, the negotiation is our board thing. I mean, because it's directed from the board to do the negotiations. I mean, I can see the confusion in both ways, but if the administrator knows that they have to go through her, then at least all board members will know, because there's been some times that they're not aware as the administration to inform all board members. Just the negotiation team, they've been doing it. And so if we have one contact person do it, and I'm pointing at Amy just because that's where the position's going to sit, then they know that they have to do it, and they know they'll have to contact that person. So I like it when one person would be in charge of it, and I know it's just a quick email, so.
I would agree with Kim that negotiations are different than other committees, and I think it should read board meetings, workshops, negotiations. I think those are very specific items.
What number are you on?
I'm actually looking at number 2, which would be take and transcribe minutes. Well, I would reverse those two. I would put the second sentence first, prepare legal notice and agenda material for school board meetings, workshops, and negotiation sessions, and closed sessions. And then I would say take and transcribe minutes for same.
And publish and preserve minutes in accordance to the state statutes, because we're adding 7 up there.
Yep.
So we could split them 2 different functions.
Although the board secretary has not been attending negotiations. So we
No, she
wouldn't...
doesn't have to take, she's not taking the minutes.
Okay, okay.
She's just doing the postings.
Okay.
So that's why I said I would probably split that, is take and transcribe minutes of the board, publish and preserve minutes in accordance with state statutes, then add, prepare legal notices, agenda materials for school board meetings, negotiation, board executive and closed sessions, and any other gatherings if that's the lawyers choosing to put that in there.
That makes sense.
Make 2 different functions of that, because they are 2 quite separate ones.
Yep. And then,
And that's my input.
then there was one more, I didn't know if we wanted to change the custodian of our board policies, because the board is the one who sets policies. If we want to move that to the board secretary and make sure they're posted on the website and all of that. Again, that was, just a thought from going to part-time to full-time.
Are you, I just want to make sure I understand, Lisa, you're suggesting that the board secretary be the custodian of the district records?
Of the policies, of the board policies, because right now, I was told that the policy, like the posting on the website and stuff, goes through your office. And my thought was, if they're board policies, that our board secretary would be the one to make sure that they were posted properly on the website.
So she gets handed what's gone through a first and second reading, and she posts it.
Well, once it's board approved,
Right.
then she would be the one to make sure that the updated version of the policy is posted.
Yeah, it's not a difficulty, it's a little bit of a wrinkle, because Sarah is responsible for the website, and it is very facile for her to be able to make the change and then post it right away, as opposed to sending it to somebody else who then has to go into the website and post those. I understand the nature, the reason why you're saying that. I also think that the functionality would be more cumbersome, but that's a board decision.
Can they put it like they would work together?
Sure.
That they could work together with the board secretary?
I think that's really legitimate. I would say working with the public relations coordinator, posting posting board policy.
Making sure that the website is posted properly for policy and any other additional information. Maybe the combination between that.
Well, when you say any additional information, what are you referring to?
Okay, I guess I should say, making sure the agenda is posted properly, is that,
But that's
is her
that's the
her
super, that's the,
job.
not hers, but it's the board secretary's. Okay. Two different items we're talking about, sorry.
Okay. So then we have the paragraph under that.
It's pretty standard language.
Standard.
Yep. All right, qualifications. All right, I'm flipping to the back page unless someone corrects me.
The knowledge of, why do they need bookkeeping experience? Do you do something that you
Keep
need
track of our
bookkeeping?
conferences and stuff, is that bookkeeping?
Isn't
I
bookkeeping?
do receive invoices and go through the process on that. So anytime, like when WASB comes for anything, and they
Okay.
send us an invoice, they send it to me, and so I
Okay.
track that and I send it over to billing. And
Okay,
so there's minimal, but it is there.
okay.
And I'd
Do
probably
you
put
think
that
there was
last.
anything that needed to be added there?
I didn't read it.
Sorry.
Maybe the word bookkeeping can go last almost, because it's not the main objective. It would be, because if I look at that one, well, I don't have the bookkeeping skills, so I wouldn't even pursue it, even though if I would have everything else. But I don't know if it's alphabetical order or not. I think it is. Office operation. Sheet. Okay. That takes us through to ability to A, B, C, D, and E. Right, physical demands, I think that's pretty standard stuff. In terms of employment. All right. Put changes in and bring this back. Yes?
Yes.
All right.
I have a question. I don't know if it belongs here, or if we need anything on here. Because there are 9 of us, I guess my question would be, when we need to ask for something, is Amy responsible for receiving a request from each one of us? Does that have to go through Amy and you? And I'm not necessarily saying that it goes through the position description, but if people want information or need something from Amy, are you copied on that? Are you and Jeff copied on that, or?
It's not a discussion we should have right now, is it?
Well, I mean, I don't know if it belongs in the job description at all. It may not. In some place, say, direction
But
from
don't
the
we have our
board.
procedure of
Well,
request? I mean, I'm just,
Yeah, I know.
yeah.
I'm just bringing it up here because if you need something, do you go through Amy, or do you go through Amy and copy Angel and Jeff?
I go through the policy or the procedure that we were told.
Okay.
President, vice president,
Maybe we don't need that. I'm just.
superintendent, and board
This
secretary.
is her job description. You can't put our expectations in
No, but if
her
we're putting
job
her
description.
expectation that she's representing the
Them.
board.
He-
is
he or she.
He, she,
Yeah.
whoever. Are they reporting to the board or each board member? Because it makes a difference. So maybe it doesn't belong here, but it's just something I wanted to bring up.
Let me,
What says provide administration and clerical support to the
let me clean this
board.
up and bring it back, and then we'll decide if there's anything else that needs to be added.
Okay?
All right. 8E2.
Amy, I'm going to recuse myself, if you could please put that. Minutes?
Ratification of 2011-2012 collective bargaining agreement with SPAEA.
Information is provided there pretty clearly. Florence is here. She can gladly answer any questions, but she and I both worked on this memo together, so it's pretty straightforward.
Any questions? Yep.
I know she's not going to like this, but Florence, I would really like you to come up here and go through it for the public, for you to go, and that's, thank you. and kind of give them a little background, so.
Sure thing. For the background, we began negotiations with the Stevens Point Area Education Association with our first meeting on September 25th, and then we met a couple of times after that, and that was for the 2011-2012 contract year, and we did reach a tentative agreement with them on Tuesday, November 18th, for a 0.5% base wage increase across the board, and for the distribution to be made to all active employees during the 2011-12 school year, retroactive back to July 1st, 2011. So I'm requesting that the board ratify the agreement that was reached and prepare a motion tonight to approve the 0.5% base wage increase across the board, retroactive to July 1st, 2011, and to be distributed to all active 2011-12 SPAE employees at the time.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Need a motion?
I will make the motion to ratify the 2011-12 district and SPAEA collective bargaining agreement for all across the board 0.5 base wage increase retroactive to July 1st, 2011, and to be distributed to all active 2011-12 SPIA employees.
Second?
Second.
All right, questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Presley?
Yes.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Sherrick?
Yes.
Ms. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Ebel?
Yes.
Ms. Erler?
Yes.
Ms. Baxon?
Yes?
Mr. Kokonowski?
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0.
Thank you.
Thank you again,
Thanks,
Florence.
Florence.
Okay, we're moving into a little bit meatier of a topic, so if we want to take a 5-minute break, we can be back by 8, 1 minute after 8, please. All right, we've got everybody back. Let's move on to the superintendent search. Next steps. We have a couple of decisions we have to make. One is papers that you have. One's called the Terms of Agreement, and this is just something they would like us to read over and yes or no to. I realize you all just got it, so how about you read it over for the 8th? And we will give them a firm yes or no. And this is also with it is this is an ad, a sample ad of what they would intend to put out. And yes or no to this.
It's got to be part of my package.
We need to determine a salary or salary range. Their recommendation was 180. I got this. It's the Business News Book of Lists. It's included. And it showed that 180 is significantly above the highest paid superintendent in the state of Wisconsin.
No,
And-
that can't be right. Or like local around this area?
Yeah.
Highest paid public school district administrators.
And Milwaukee gets paid that's in that material that you provided. Milwaukee gets paid like $235.
North Central Wisconsin.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I also took
Yep.
that report.
Yep, no, and Lisa provided us with a spreadsheet and then like a summarized DPI, or did you use this?
I used the DPI, and I just used the same markets that the
Okay.
Carlson Detman used. Because I thought if we're using this market for the rest of the staff, then we should at least consider that that's the same market that we use for our superintendent.
That makes sense.
Yep, so we need to make a decision so that I can let Ray and Associates know. What are your thoughts on this?
Did you want to share? Did you want to give that, or was the only thing you wanted to say was 180 was higher?
The actual printouts are part of your packet.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I photocopied that and shrunk it down to
Okay.
fit on a page.
Okay. I didn't know if there was something more that she was referring to. Okay.
Nope.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm going to say, the highest paid in the Midwest is 157, I'm going to round,
In north central Wisconsin.
I mean, no, it's at 158 if I round up.
Includes Langlade, Lincoln, Marathon, Menominee, Oneida, Portage, Taylor, Vilas, Wapaka, and Wood.
Yep. And if you use the Detman, the highest one is the 158. The Carlson, Detman, the same areas that,
Right, so we need to understand that it's for a 15-16 school year, so it's moving on. But I need to know what your thoughts are, and we need to kind of agree on a number.
I would recommend up to 160,000 based on their experience.
Well, and he did say they used the word "in the range of."
Right.
And I would say 150,
and I would say 150.
because we have to give them room to grow, so.
Because if you look at this, you know, it goes from 110, 120, 120, I mean, Rapids is 127, Marshfield's 136. I don't see why we need to be any higher than 150.
He made the comment when he was here that we would have to pay somewhere in the neighborhood of $25,000 to move. And I didn't understand that, why that would be added to the salary, because that's why he actually said we would go from 155 to 180, was to include the amount that it would cost to move somebody. And, I mean, I think that maybe we could add that as a benefit, a $25,000 moving package, but I don't know why that has to be added. Is that your recollection of what he said?
Well, that is what he said. It is very unusual. First of all, that number is exceptionally high for moving expenses, regardless of what kind of part of the country you're coming from. And secondly, it's always separate from, so that the board typically says, I'll just give you an example. Mine said up to $2,000, and I used $237.
$2,000 total to move?
Right.
Oh, my.
And I used $237. So I thought that number was very high.
Yeah.
But and you can go and ask other, in fact, if you contacted WASB, they would tell you what a typical range would be for moving expenses from out of state.
So that's your recollection, that they said add that to the...
It's not my recollection, that's typical procedure for a superintendent's position, is you don't add it to the salary, you make it part of the contract.
Right, but my recollection is they said add it to the
Right.
salary.
Yeah, that's...
Which I thought was very weird, unusual, because if, that means you would be adding it for every year, and presumably they only move once.
So there were a lot of people that blanched when he threw out the number 180. And I'm not talking about me.
There's a lot of people
I
that were
heard from
signing
a
that
lot of people after.
application. Chris?
A couple things. At the WSB workshop that we went to, Angel, you were there, and I specifically asked them that question. If you bring in a new superintendent, would you expect to have the salary be greater than the current superintendent? Now, I'm not sure, and they said absolutely. If you think you're going to get somebody to come in, unless it's not maybe someone that you want for less than what you're paying your current superintendent, you're not going to get it. So I don't know how real that is or not. And again, depends on the economy, depends on where they're coming in, all those experiences. I just have to say, have we signed this yet, this contract?
No.
We have not signed it yet. And will this come with a dollar amount?
How did they have it? Is it on there? We just got this today at
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
4:30.
I don't know if there was a dollar amount on here.
Yeah. 16,000 base fee.
That's the base fee?
Page 4, base fee,
That was in their literature.
16,000.
Yeah, well, I know what they said. I just didn't see this today. But we have not yet signed a contract with them, correct?
Correct. Although, we did agree to hire them. This is just the
Correct.
contract.
Right.
So, I mean,
I'm kind of surprised.
unless there's something in it, we need to agree to it.
Well, we can look at it and decide on...
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah,
Take
no,
the time.
we'll look
it
at
was
this.
already in the,
Yeah.
This is specific to us. So, okay, so we've got 150s, 160, Chris, I'm guessing you're more on the 160 since you said you wanted to go higher.
Well, we can keep the same salary. Our superintendent, I believe, for 3 or 4 years had the same salary. We can have the same salary.
So in the range,
Start at the same salary.
It's 155.
in the range of 155, okay.
155.5.
Megan, Trish, what's your take, or Jeff?
Well, I think it's it's 2 years, we're going 2 years forward, so that's something we're looking at, this is 2 years old data, so, but I'm comfortable.
It's
Well,
13,
14, but it'll be 15, 16.
It'll be
We'll
for
be
the years-
negotiating for
right.
15, so it'll be 2
years later.
years, so
Ranked
it's,
by
you know,
13, 14.
1% would put you at maybe 3,000 up. I'm comfortable with, anything in that range of 150 to 150, I'd be comfortable, up to 160. If you got that just perfect candidate that had everything you wanted, and maybe we could do a range of 150 to 160.
Well, and that's what it
That's what they say they use, is they
Right,
use
range
the
of
wording, the
150 to
range of.
In the range of,
But commensurate with the experience. If someone comes in and they have less experience, and we feel like we really like them, but we don't feel that they have, that they don't command a 150, we have the ability to negotiate something less, right?
So then, do we go with the 150, knowing we can go up to 160, or go down to 140 or whatever? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying do a range of 150 to 160, but we have the ability, ultimately, we're going to be negotiating a contract with.
Oh, and I think they
What-
just
what the
wanted us to
successful-
give one
What
number,
number?
but we can do whatever we want.
Well, one number isn't a range.
Right.
Well,
Well, he says the
that's-
range of.
That is how he
And I don't
presented
understand
it.
that. I know he said that the other night, and I wanted to say to him, a
No,
range is not
a
one
range.
number. A
Okay.
range is two numbers. A range is
Right,
something
but-
between two numbers.
that's a good point.
I'm just saying that's what he said.
I know, it didn't make any sense to me. I'm going to go with a range from 150 to 160 commensurate with experience.
Jeff? Oh, sorry, go
I
ahead.
meant to say the neighborhood
I think you're right.
Neighborhood of, yeah.
Well, the neighborhood,
of for one number.
oh, yeah, if you're going to say one number, but
Yeah.
that's, I mean.
If it's one
That's
number,
what he
I
meant.
would agree with Jeff. I'd go with 160 on that.
If it's one number.
Yeah.
So neighborhood of, did you want to add something?
Well, I just wanted to give just some perspective here. Candidates often look for a floor. So if you said no less than 140 or no less than 150, to them that means that there's room to move up above. If you say a range of 150 to 160, you're pretty much telling them that this is the range. While it's not locked in stone, candidates are going to make applications based on what they're reading. They never use the words "in the neighborhood of."
Right.
They say there's a range. So, you can pick your poison, so to speak, but it's either a floor, it's never a ceiling, and it's sometimes a range. And that range means that's the range.
It's going to be somewhere around that number.
Right, because if you offer a candidate more than that range, and there were candidates out there who did not apply because it was too narrow, and you offer a candidate more than that, you've essentially been not good faith in what you've said.
So then, do we want to just go with the range of 140 to 160? Is that what the board's saying?
I'm good with
Angel,
that.
do you have a copy of the ad?
Yeah, it's right here.
Do we have it?
Yeah.
Was it in the,
It's a,
yeah, I
It's
just want
that
to see
little
what, I want to see what
tiny
it
guy.
says here.
In the range of blank dollar.
the thing is they're the consultants. This must be how they advertise it, so they should know the language. That's normal. I mean, if they're asking us to come up with a range and come up with one number, that makes sense.
And then I would probably go with the floor,
Right.
and I would go with 140.
I think that Jill made a good point there.
So instead of saying range, we want them to say the floor.
I don't know if that's the correct.
Right, but the
No less than,
no less than.
plus a comprehensive.
What
That
says that?
says that
That's
already.
an excellent.
No less
I think that should be
than.
capitalized.
Plus comprehensive
So then,
package?
I guess, Okay, so then when we look at this Carlson Detman for other staff members and we use the same market, are we going to be prepared to adjust their compensation? I'm just saying, the staff is going to say, well, okay, if you're using the same comparables.
Right, but that's not on the agenda, this is. So we have to decide this.
I know that, but I'm saying in making this decision, that should be something that we should think about.
Well, and the other thing you want to think about is they're going to know what Attila started at.
Oh, it's all public.
And what he has now.
Absolutely, Chris.
So
absolutely,
it's going to be public information in that. So whatever,
Absolutely.
if you say he's making 155, and then you say you're going to be in the range of 140, it's exactly what the WSB guy said. They're not going to go down from what your superintendent. They're not going to go down from what your superintendent is making.
But on the other hand, when you hire a new staff person, no matter where it is, you don't automatically give them a raise. I mean, you don't hire a teacher
I'm
with
not saying
20
give
years
them a raise.
experience higher than
Right.
the highest paid teacher here. You don't do that. I mean, so there's just a lot to think about.
And we're really just looking, with respect to Carlson Detman, we're just looking at the comparables. I mean, we're
Yeah, that's all,
looking,
that's all.
we're looking at the reality of the comparables within our area, which is what we need to do if we want to
If we're going to use their
get
study.
some applicants. Well, no, if we want to get some applicants. I mean, this is central Wisconsin. I mean, we're talking about the other school districts that this board determined that we should compare ourselves to
I
with
would be
respect to
comfortable in the
superintendent.
range of 150, because that leaves us to move forward to 160, or...
Can I ask, Attila, if it says in the range of 150, does a prospective superintendent look at that and say, oh, it says in the range of 150, I can probably go in and command something higher than that?
Or they may try to lowball me. So, for example, if I'm not an experienced superintendent, and I've been an assistant superintendent, you're not going to give that person more than 150. In fact, you may say, geez, that person's salary is 115. If we give that person 140, they're making a $25,000 leap. That's the conversation that's going to take place. Because I can tell you that's the conversation that takes place when we bring on principals and cabinet members. And you're going to have that conversation. So for me, the range of 150, I would call the recruiter if I were the person and say, what does that really mean?
Yeah.
To me, that doesn't say anything. It's either, and back to what Kim said, if you said no less than, then you're saying this is no less than that regardless of your experience. If you set a range of 140 to 160, you're saying we're giving some flexibility here to your experience, and we're not going lower than 140, and we are not going to go higher than 160.
So you're saying that this should be changed?
I would not give one number, but you have a consultant that you're paying for. So you'd asked me my opinion?
140 to 160.
140 to 160?
Yep.
I think that covers all of us. So a range of?
And you
That's the
can
language we
always
wanna
put
use.
based on experience? Is that in there?
It's in there, yeah.
Because, I mean, that would be a big thing, because to me, too,
Yeah,
also
no,
knowing
it's
coming
on
in,
there.
if you are an assistant, you're not going to get the top of the line money.
Yeah, it's in there.
Okay.
Consensus, yes, 140 to 160?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
Exactly.
All right, the other thing we have to determine is who we would like at the listening sessions that we are having December 1st and December 2nd. I think what we did agree on is that the evening of December 1st, around 7-ish, we would do a public, and then in the earlier evening of December 2nd, and then the day of December 2nd.
Aren't those committee meeting nights?
We aren't invited, really.
Yeah, we're not.
This is for
invited.
public listening sessions.
You're saying we, and I'm like, oh.
Sorry.
I won't
No.
be there.
So it was public that evening around 7, and then, or 6 or 7, and then public the next day, but around 4 or 5, so a different group of people could come, but we have all day on the 2nd for them to go, and it's more than one person, so they said they've done up to 8 in a day. I think that sounds a little stretch it, but, so we have staff, we have parents, we have students, we have the communities already on both ends, we have business partners. How do we want to handle it? because they want a list from us.
Oh, and I thought he was giving us a list.
Nope. We have to come up with the list.
Okay.
I thought,
I need to move back a second. December 1st and 2nd are this Monday and Tuesday.
Yes.
Next Monday and Tuesday.
yep.
We have nothing set up for them. They have nothing set up for us, and we have nothing set up for them.
And it's
And we have
Thanksgiving
nothing in the
weekend.
And it's Thanksgiving weekend.
Those are the dates we agreed on.
I'm not criticizing anyone, I'm just stating some facts
Reality.
that, something's missing here, like the structure of what we should be doing. I'm not blaming anyone, I'm just putting it out there.
Did
We
they
have-
send out new calendars? I thought we were getting adjusted
He
calendars.
said he was going to send us new calendars.
That's what I thought.
I never got
Because we made a
anything.
bunch of notes on the old one.
Right.
And then they said, we'll send you a new one.
The next,
Correct.
yeah.
Because we.
And they said they were going to send it to Angel or Amy, and then we were going to get it.
Angie.
Like
We got a new
Angelina.
Angie.
Sorry.
I caution us, if we're going to do this, we really need to have a plan, and we have to have those people's names or the positions or whoever we're going to do. It has to be out there. And, and today's Tuesday, and people are leaving.
So should we add a week? And
Yes.
they can do
I'm
the
thinking we need, absolutely.
8th and 9th?
Now
And
that-
weren't we supposed to get like 3
that
to
a board
4
meeting?
people per board member? We're supposed to suggest names or
I don't know.
something?
Well, that's what we're going to discuss right now. If you want to do it that way, everybody can send names to Amy. But you
Names
have
of
to
what?
indicate, are they staff, are they, well, the students, I think we kind of agreed we were going to go with the student senate. Let student senate pull it together. Yeah, Jeff, go ahead.
Is there a list of the categories or the groupings?
Yeah, I'm giving it to you right now.
Okay.
People, no, public, staff, parents, unless we want to combine, because obviously any of these people are also public. They can come to any of these. We're just saying would they narrow in on these. So staff, we could do 2 different, we could do secondary and primary, however we want to do it. And they will go to them. They will meet with them in one of their buildings. It's not everything here.
As long as you're talking about that one. If we're talking about the staff, can we send out an email to all staff members? The time, the date, can you make it? Are you interested? And let them come forward. Because I don't want to pick a staff member and then they come and say, I can't do it, I got this and this and this. I don't know their schedule. Can we just put it out there to the staff and say, okay, these are our meetings for the public, can you make it?
If I can help you a little bit, just give you a perspective. So today's Monday night, and you have tomorrow. You put out a doodle saying, these are the dates, can you make these dates? Or you put out a request. You're not going to hear from staff tomorrow. It's the day before Thanksgiving.
That's why we moved it a week.
Right. So even if you hear back on Monday, a lot of people, I don't know how much you're going to get, and I don't know how much you want to get, what your critical mass is. So then you say, well, these are the dates. I will guarantee you that a lot of people have made plans for holiday parties over the next 3 weeks, especially parents and community members. And if you even schedule it now for the 8th and the 9th, I don't know what your take is going to be. And I'm not suggesting you change the timeline. I'm just trying to help you see that if you don't get responses back, what will you do? That's the worst case scenario. What will you do?
I know we, and Kim, we looking to schedule negotiations. There've been, our staff is really busy these next few weeks with everything leading up to the holidays. I wonder if we're in a situation now where we're supposed to be pulling together these groups, whether we should be putting together a subcommittee of a couple of us to pull together the people that board members want to the groups, and to list the groups and say, all right, who should we be inviting? Email us information, email us ideas, and then let's put together these groups. Let's spend December or a couple weeks in December, or whoever's willing to be on a subcommittee, coming up, as I believe has happened in the past, coming up with the group, and then looking to have both the public, a public notice and for anyone, and then also some of specific groups, which I think is what has happened in the past. And we could even pull some of those old, or the people on the subcommittee could pull some of those old lists and look at them, because I think we're so much better planning and getting it right and getting that input, in the first place, and then possibly looking to do this, get those invitations out for, right after the holidays, where people could come in and they would have already had it calendared, they'd have some time to think about it, and then we could move forward, because I think it's better for us to do it deliberately and right at the front end and get people involved that we want to get involved, than to try to rush it right now during the holidays and wind up just a mess, frankly.
I agree. I mean, that's why I said before, there's no way we're going to do this between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And like you said, with negotiations, there was one whole week that the teachers were out, and I can't remember if it was the third week of December or whatever, so, and that's what I mean, it's pushing our calendar back, yeah. But I think like the second week of January would be a good time, like you said, get the invitations out, see who's available, and
Trish, where are we with the time? Give us the time. I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, 11, it was going to be, tonight was going to be our first meeting. Then we moved it back to the night of committee meetings, so the first and the second, we had that discussion. Then, so the deadline for survey input from constituents, stakeholders, board members was going to be that same week, December 2nd, like 2nd. Then December 2nd, I presume, would be the promotional flyer draft would be due.
It was 8th. They had switched it to the 8th for the draft.
Yeah.
And the 8th to email that draft.
And then the next one, you have the one that's for the December 3rd, board to finalize superintendent profile for the promotional flyer. They moved that back presumably to December 10th. So, I guess the question I have to ask is, I kind of agree with Meg. It makes more sense to move it into January, except the question I have to ask is, what were we going to get from those stakeholder meetings? Because they have that the deadline for applicants is January 9th. So if we're...
They have 12 on the advertisement. Application January 12th.
Okay. So if they're looking for something from those stakeholder meetings upon which they would design the flyer or something, then we've totally messed up the timeline. But if we're just looking for members of the community to come forward and talk to us about what's important to us.
Talk to them.
Or talk to them, and they're ultimately going to share it with us, what's important in our next superintendent, then I don't see why we can't have those. I mean, we can have those meetings in January. I don't see why we can't have them in January. Do you follow what I'm saying?
I do, but the only thing, I think maybe you're forgetting that they're going to them. So they would be in the schools during the school day. This isn't cutting into people's evenings. This is like, I'm going to sit in the lunch room or the teacher's lounge and talk to people as they come through kind of thing. This isn't a evening meeting. So they're going to them. So it doesn't cut into like a holiday party as far as I can tell. I don't know if they want a formal meeting, and I genuinely don't care if we do this in January or December. My December's packed.
If we push this a month behind, what is the end
Well, they have January 26th. A consultant develops and finalizes interview questions and procedures with the board. January 26th. Then we interview our semi-finalist candidates on January, they have on here January 19th, but perhaps they intended to move that back a week, so like January 26th or something. I mean, and then the final meeting with the consultant for the last interview is, they have on here January 26th, but perhaps they mean that to be February 3rd or 4th.
Yeah, the interview first round was, it looks like the 26th, and then the first week in February was the final meeting with the consultant following the last interview.
Okay, but we also need to remember, okay, if they're doing it with staff the way Angel says, where they're going into the building, in addition to that, we've already sent out the survey. So our staff have had a couple opportunities to give their input. So,
Well, they've had the opportunity to answer 30 questions,
well, there's that bottom part where you can,
Yeah, I think that human contact where you're saying, look, this is what's important and this is why it's important, I think that's irreplaceable. That one-on-one human being discussion can't be replaced by the online survey.
All right, so let's just get a general, give me a December, January of when you want to do this.
I a question first.
Yes.
How many representatives did they want in each meeting? What were they looking for?
Of them,
No, we've got these
25.
groups, 25?
25 max, they said. That is really not a productive group beyond that. So it can be less than that, but 25 is their top.
so could we just start the non-staff groups right away in December? I mean, like, those would be the groups, because what we're worried about is our staff, correct?
Well, actually, I'm thinking parents. I mean, if we're looking to have input from the I know in the past it's been nonprofit, some of the organizations, it's been business community, it's been local government.
I think the aggressive schedule was for our benefit. I don't think that they were doing that for theirs. They were trying to provide us with what they thought we wanted.
Can I ask a question of you?
Sure.
How is it that you think they were intending to go into the schools and meet with teachers?
That's what they said they were going to do.
I don't remember them saying that.
No. They're going to bring
I mean, I
3
think it would
people.
be very nice if they would do that.
And
but-
they said, well, maybe it was just a conversation. Amy, were you there? I can't remember how I had this, but I was just talking to the 2 of them, maybe it was beforehand, and they, other than the 2 public forums, they go to the people. Like, they would gather the student senate and go to a meeting with them. They would go to schools. I mean, they'll handle it however we want.
So if your recollection is correct, and I have to say, I don't remember them saying that. Do you guys remember that? But if they're willing to do that, if they're willing to take 2 days, go to SPASH, go to a couple of the other schools, if they would do that in December sometime, because it's like we said, it's during the school day, and teachers can take 10 minutes out to meet with them. I think that would be great if they would do that in December, and then we try to organize our parents and nonprofit or whatever the other meetings are going to consist of, those for the first couple days of January. Then I would, that's a schedule that I can see that we can actually accomplish.
I think they were trying to accommodate travel schedules too, because then we're going to pay them twice to come up here, 3 of them, and stay here, at least for a night. That they were trying to do it all at once. So if we're willing to do that, that's fine. But that's part of what we're paying for, is we'll be paying for 3 people to come, spend the night, and do it twice. Yes?
If the purpose for doing this is for our own
Information?
education, I don't see why we couldn't wait till January to do it. Because, I mean, this ad's still going to go out, people are still going to be applying, but they're not really going to review the applications, right? I mean,
Yeah.
So I mean, this is for our own benefit, so that when we get into interviewing, we know what we're looking for, right? I mean, I'm asking that, is that correct?
Wasn't there something about that when the superintendents are out there looking for jobs? I thought they said something about January was the time frame when
Yeah.
that takes
Attila just
place.
reminded me, they want to put this flyer together, and they want to say, this is what this community's looking for.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, so they
Right.
need it for the flyer then.
Right.
It's
Right.
not just for,
So if they're coming up to find out what the community's looking for, and they're going to the schools, that's great. What about the rest of the community?
That's what
That
she
would be the
just said.
2 open sessions.
So it sounded like just one general question. Why can't we just email it out to staff first and then put it in the local media and have a site where they can send their,
Responses?
right, and instead of necessarily talking to the individual?
Because as long as they have an area where they can write their comment instead of the survey.
Is there a place for that?
Yeah, there
on the
is.
Survey Monkey?
Yes. But the bad thing about the Survey Monkey is you have to actually select 10 of the top to give your comment, which is really,
This is, this is Sarah's idea, and I think it's a great idea. What she did, she said so much of this is handled online now, and they want to do these flyers. They want to do their paper flyers that go out at things. She said so many people are checking all this stuff online. So she created a spot on the website that's completely separate. It is only for the superintendent search, superintendent job description, anything that has to do with this, she's going to put straight onto there. This is her in her PR role. She's working with Molly at Ray & Associates to get this done. So if we wanted to pose a question, we can put it on that site. Sarah was even saying she doesn't know that a paper flyer is what people would be looking for. She thinks they'll go online to look and see what we want.
And I agree with that. The only thing is our website, our homepage is very, in my opinion, very cumbersome and there's too much going on. So somehow it needs to be on top and so that people don't have to scroll down to find it.
Or even a direct link, you know.
Well, right, but I mean, even the causing you to go to the direct link needs to be something that jumps out at you. Well, something, because as it is now, I have to scroll down to get to the bottom of our homepage.
So we want it right on top, so that was kind of the next thing I was going to talk about, is just giving you the gist of what Sarah was thinking in terms of, but that's why they want the forums. So we can determine how we want these forums handled. If we want them to go to the schools and sit and talk to people, go to a PTO meeting, I don't know exactly what we want, but if we asked people can you get a group of people together, I think they could do it. Maybe not by next Monday and Tuesday, I agree. With the holiday, that's a little ridiculous.
I like the online thing, only because people are busy. The only thing is we would have to do more than one press release. We would have to do, if we do the sign where we did teacher appreciation last year on that bulletin board, asking people to go to our website, whatever, just something more than one.
Okay, and that's what I was going to say, put a couple advertisement, you want to help us with our superintendent search, go to this website. The first step is going here, and then, we could, push the meetings back to the 7th and 8th or whatever that next week is, if we want to get two public forums together and see what that brings first, or push it back to January. My question is, and again, we don't have the time for this, is calling them and saying, hey, if we push this back to January, other than sending that email out, how does that give us with our timeline that we agreed to? That's pushing it back a month.
Jeff, you had your hand up.
No, I was just going to say that I'm for doing the forums or the listening sessions in December, because I don't think we can wait. If they need that information to recruit, then we should plan them for the 8th and 9th, and you recruit as many people as you can for the various groups, and you run with what you got. You can augment it, or the 9th and 10th. You augment it with the online survey, so people that can't necessarily participate in that still have a way to voice, and then you run with it. And I think we just have to move forward with it.
We would have to go to the 9th and the 10th. Can't go the 8th because it's a board meeting.
Those two had something to say.
Chris?
No,
We're not there.
I'll agree
But the
with Jeff.
public, public wants to come here, if the public wants to come here and then go there, so.
I think what we need to really do is just rein this in and say, okay, we need what before the date for them, and who's going to do the groups? Who's going to get those groups together?
I am off tomorrow, and I'm happy to do it, and they want these answers like yesterday.
Yeah,
So
I would assist with that too if you needed help organizing
I
groups.
think, we have to have some, do we have any information, to see if any information on the last search or the search before or anything like that? If she's
I've
got
not
anything
seen
back
one
there?
scrap of paper.
Okay, so, but you have an idea of some of the groups, parents, we can do
Staff,
seniors, we can do
business,
staff,
students, government.
business.
Right, so we don't need it because we're going with a whole different
Yeah.
firm. They have
So-
a whole different.
It doesn't matter, you still want the same,
Superintendent search.
you still want the community though, different pieces of the community, but if you're looking for numbers, you're going to have specific groups. I don't think you can have, them just walking around looking, to talk to people and that, so.
You got to invite them.
What, Meg?
And then how do you invite them, yeah?
I just have, I guess, now I'm thinking, Alex has been proposing the forums, so why don't we just set doing 9th and 10th would be forums for the community to come and provide input as to what they're looking for in terms of a new superintendent. We could also send email to all staff, to all parents. We could send that email to the business council and ask them to send it out to their members. We could see if there's a central email, possibly United Way would be willing to forward an email out to the nonprofit groups. But we would need to come up with here are the six questions or the 5 questions that we'd like you to go online and answer. And then we will also be having 2 listening sessions or 2 forums where you are invited to come and meet the consultants and provide input.
They probably have the questions, because all we were giving them were the names anyhow, so.
And a place that you're going to have the forums.
I think they said here for the public ones, but if it's 25, it's just more intimate. Okay. So sounds like 9th and 10th. So evening of the 9th, evening of the 10th, daytime on the 10th is when they would go to different groups. We're going to pull the groups together. We're going to send emails out and request it. If we get 1 million responses, because everybody's so excited to do this, we'll just draw the names out of a hat from the groups. I mean, that seems to make the most sense. If you want to email names to, I think you can email them to me. I'm not responding with anything exciting. We're not chatting about something.
You can email them to me, I can compile them.
Well, I always do both.
Yeah.
That
do
way it's not missed.
But I'd really like to do this tomorrow, and Jeff said he can work with me. Anybody else free tomorrow?
I won't have time to even get you a list, but, I mean, most of the lists should be the same ones that we would have before, not the people, but the organizations, so.
Do you think that 2 weeks is enough time?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
You got to run with it.
Will you be doing that here tomorrow?
Sure. Or somewhere where they have good pizza.
Well, that can be any place, because it can be delivered.
Exactly. Do you have time?
Yeah,
I'll do it whenever
yeah.
anybody can come.
Yeah.
Yes?
I would-
What time are you available?
Over the lunch hour, pizza would be great. Yeah, that works.
So how about
Lunch
if
hour
I
tomorrow?
plan on, oh, there's an appointment. I can be here by 11:45, and I'll stay as long as we have to do it. We'll get the email out to them. We'll get the information to Sarah.
I'll leave my office
Sarah.
unlocked, and I'll leave the superintendent files on the desk before I leave.
Because she'll send out the mass.
She's sending out, she's the PR, so she's kind of, and put the questions on the website.
Can you just,
Should have access to that.
And then you'll also confirm with Ray and Associates that the 8th and then.
that we
9th
push
and
that
10th,
back?
yeah.
Yep.
Got to make sure they can make it.
Can you
That
give
would
us
be
at
good.
least a list of the organizations that you sent it out to, like who you sent it out to, just to kind of keep us in, in the loop, and possibly put it on our website, so if a parent would come and say, hey, I didn't get that email that everybody's gossiping about, and I can just say, go onto the website, it's right there. It's
Okay.
flashing, as Alex says.
Yes, we'll send that out.
That would be great, just to kind of keep us in the loop when people start talking about it. Granted, I may meet somebody in Fargo, North Dakota,
And no pizza till you get the work done.
there you go.
Oh,
Cracking the whip. Okay, so tomorrow in the evening, I will send out an email that says yes or no to the dates, what groups we agreed to go with, and hopefully a link to the website so you guys can go and look at what Sarah put up. She's agreed to kind of be the boots on the ground here, since she'll do it directly to the website, so that makes it Amy's life easier, who has a job, and blah, blah, blah. All right. Anything else? 140 to 160, listening sessions, and, what about do we want them to come up with a paper flyer? Remember they asked if we wanted one of their people to do it, or do we just want it on?
I guess if you talk to them, just say, hey, if we choose not to do the paper flyer, what are our chances? What are,
I don't think superintendents are going to go for the paper flyer.
Well, and I'm thinking, if
just
you want
saying,
a
I'm just
flyer,
saying.
you make it electronic, so that when they go on, they.
Well, you know how our budget is paper if we want to print it, but it's also this really nice, IUUS, whatever that is, website. and it's all, you know.
Print out a flyer.
You know what I'm talking about? But the way that our web budget is online is beautiful. And I would think something like that would be.
Well, they can view it in HTML, they can view it in PDF, they can view it in whatever they choose.
Yeah, but something like that.
JPEG, whatever.
No. When is the next time we'd like to see them? The 9th and 10th, if they can make it?
I can't make it the 10th.
Well, they don't want to see us.
Oh, you said to see us.
No, when do we want to see, we don't need them here until that date, is what I'm saying.
yeah.
Okay.
No, we don't.
I mean, if they believe we need to Skype with them, can we do it on the workshop for the December?
We don't really have workshops.
Okay, the second meeting of the month in December, is they could Skype with us and just say, hey, this is how the workshop, with their forums went to, and.
Well, they can just let us know if we need to meet with them.
Right.
Then we set up a meeting.
First of December, first meeting, whatever the case may be.
Okay.
Well, and the dates,
Tell them we need the calendar.
Yes, we
it can
need
be a time frame too. I mean, we're talking about the second to potentially third week in December when it fits with their schedule, because it doesn't matter if it conflicts with our meeting.
Right, if that's the last option.
Christmas Eve.
Just with Santa. Okay. All good? I feel like I had the information they asked for.
You need to approve the contract.
You want to read it? We're doing it the
time.
1st of December.
The 8th. Okay, we are on to 8G2, Donovan Group Agreement.
So we've moved responsibilities for PR quite a bit to Sarah, but while doing that, she's still in need of being able to reach out and talk with somebody who's expert in that field, and so we've changed the agreement from what it was. We have a copy of the original agreement. Jeff had asked for that on Friday. I indicated to him that I would not be able to get to it until Monday. And so this is on an as-needed basis, and it would be only at the approval of the superintendent, along with the PR coordinator. And it's at, I believe it's $150 an hour. And I don't expect, and neither does Sarah, that there would be a large usage of this, but there are periodic times when those kinds of services are needed. And I'll just give you an example. When we had the bomb threats, we were on the phone with Joe quite a bit on how to deal with crisis management, how to deal with media, how to get out in front of it, how to deal with community, that kind of thing. And there are other things, for example, when we continually update the website, what our audience is and who we're looking to get information to with the WKCE reports. And certainly if Common Core remains and we get the smarter balanced assessments, those kinds of things that the community is going to be very interested in is how to do that, because Joe works with other districts across the state. Joe is also contracted with the School Administrators Alliance, which just came out with that large advocacy program at a press conference down in Madison. So he's very well connected. He used to work in the governor's office, not this governor, but I believe the previous one. And so he's pretty connected in terms of what to do with governmental bodies and how to assist them. So we've made a recommendation there. Jeff has asked for some additional information, which we've provided at your places. I'll make the recommendation.
I will make the motion to approve the one-year agreement with the Donovan Group.
Second.
Questions?
Kim? Do we know how many hours we've used them before, or was it just a contracted dollar amount?
It was a contracted dollar amount, Kim, and there were months when Joe was working a lot, and then there were other months where it wasn't as much, but we did use him quite a bit. We have a comprehensive communications plan that Sarah has been working very diligently on. In fact, tomorrow morning at our cabinet meeting, we're going to get a review of where we are with it and what she's done. So,
But you don't know how many hours that they've worked for us in the past?
I could go back and ask Joe if he has those records. He did provide at the last meeting, Jeff had asked, I think somebody had asked for an accounting, and he did provide that. We can go back and ask him and get that for you if you'd like.
So what is this plan that we've utilized them for $30,000 a year? What have they done? What have they not done in the last 3 years?
Well, they actually helped us develop the plan, and I can go back and give you specific documents and things that they've assisted with. I mean, I don't have that here. I can go back to the office and spend a couple hours getting all that information together. But they've essentially assisted us with the media portion of the district. We didn't have anybody, and Gwen and I weren't able to really address it. At the January 2012 WASB convention in January, Renee Scheibele met Joe through somebody she knew. She came back and emailed me and asked me to be in touch with him to have him do on a essentially an engagement basis media with the district, rather than hiring somebody in the position. So we did that, and then you can see from the history the engagement letter that was done in February. I could pull all that information out for you and tell you what he has done, everything from formatted press releases and doing those press releases when we didn't have Sarah in the position, to crisis management, where we had a number of incidents that occurred, especially relating to personnel. I mean, I'd have to go back and create the list for you, but there was quite a bit that was done. Some of those things there were publications that were done. Certainly the redo of the website, Sarah and Joe worked together on that. There was quite a bit done with communication, it still is.
The pieces that are on each school that are like available for real estate agents
Right.
and so forth, did the Donovan Group
Right.
do those?
So how that happened was this. I said, I want to see a sheet for every school and for the district as a whole in order to give that to realtors, put that in the libraries, put that wherever it is to promote our school. So Joe came up with a template. Sarah then worked with the principals, populated those. I then reviewed and edited each one of them along with Sarah and Joe. So it was a combination of effort, but he had the means by which to develop that template. So graphically, it was easy to work with and be able to electronically work with Sarah. So, I was the one that said, let's do this because I think it's really important that we get out there and tell our community what great things our schools are doing, and as well as the district. He also developed the template for information regarding our school report cards, not the one that comes out from the state, but some of that information. So that's just an example of what he's done.
Did that answer your question, Joe?
So when did Sarah start doing the PR part of her job?
When did she?
Yes.
Well, when she first came on, but, when you...
And when was that?
Gwen retired in December or January of... Gwen retired in December, January of 2012-13, I believe. So Sarah came on in January, February of 2013, I believe. Joe had been working with Gwen and I earlier than that, obviously, February of 2012. And then when Sarah came on, obviously there was quite a bit of a learning curve. She had, never worked in the district before, so she gradually began to pick up additional communications and PR pieces.
Kim? Were you done, Jeff?
Go ahead.
Okay. Just like Meg had said before, it's always hard to approve something without a dollar amount on it. I guess I don't know if I could vote on this and agree to this until I would see approximately how many hours we've used them before. And instead of giving her a one-year agreement, not that I don't feel that she's going to abuse it.
It's a he.
I'm talking about as in Sarah would be abusing it because Sarah would be calling them for help, right? Okay, and that would be the only time that we would have to pay the $150 an hour, but giving her an allotted amount first, and if she goes over that, or if she needs more, then she comes back to the board and says, hey, I've used 20 hours already. and I'm in the middle of a project, I need more. This is basically would be signing an open check. Again, not that I believe Sarah's going to abuse it, but I just have a hard time saying, yes, let's do it without a dollar amount on it.
Actually, I would disagree in the sense that we're signing a contract that says that we're going to pay them a certain amount of money per hour when Sarah uses them. We as a board will be seeing those vouchers coming through.
After the fact.
Well, each month, though. And so if the board would determine 3 months down the road that, that we want to look at it, then we would. But I guess we aren't signing any kind of blank check, because whatever voucher, whatever time we use them, it's going to come forward on vouchers. And if we become uncomfortable, then we can pull it back on the agenda and discuss it moving forward. I think it sounds like Sarah is now at the point where she feels a lot more comfortable moving forward, but wants that opportunity to be able to consult, especially with situations that she maybe hasn't faced in the past. And I am very comfortable giving her that leeway. And again, if clearly if I have, or any other board member has a concern with the level of requests, then we can talk about that.
It's also with the superintendent's approval. And secondly, you do that with your legal counsel. You've agreed to a certain dollar amount, and you have no way of knowing how many hours that individual is going to be used for services, or his office. You do the exact same thing.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm in agreement with Kim. I mean, you have to have a budget. Just like you create a budget for legal counsel, you create that amount that you shoot for every year, or whatever that amount is. There needs to be a budget. I mean, my concern, and it's been all along, is, we were paying a group $30,000 a year with a contract that was never formally approved by this board, that now we're going to a different philosophy of saying as needed, but yet who's to say that they're not going to spend $30,000 again a year? Well, I can appreciate you saying that if we monitor it on a monthly basis in the billings, well, how many lines are in the billings? And who's going to remember every month to go look and see how much we spent on Donovan? It's kind of a catch-22 situation for this board, in the fact that it is a blank check. While I understand that with our legal counsel, that is something totally different than a PR. We have somebody who has that. That's why I asked for the job description, that you can see what her duties are and what she is responsible for. While I can appreciate that she wants to reach out for resources, we hired her for certain skills. That's our PR person. And we want to, she's had a year and however many months, almost 2 years, to utilize Donovan Group at an additional cost to this district of $60,000. That's a significant sum of money that we're supplementing somebody's job that we hired for. So it's important to me in making the decision tonight. I'm going to say no at this point in time because, number one, I don't know what they've done in the past. No clue. Haven't seen the communication plan. Haven't seen how much time that they put in the district, what they worked on in this district. I don't know. Your guys' guess is as good as mine, I would assume. And if that's the case, how can I go ahead and say, oh, go ahead and use them again, if I don't even know what work they've done and go, oh, yeah, I saw that article, or no, I didn't see that article, or yeah, I saw how they done that. I can't even judge the quality of the work they've done because none of their communications that's come out said this was produced by Donovan Group. I don't know. I have no clue. And that's, I'm only getting a snapshot of that information. I need a bigger snapshot to make an educated decision at this point in time. And I think if we approve this contract, we approve it with, the caveat, all right, this year, it's not, well, at the last budget, I brought it up for a reason because it was an extra $30,000 in our budget. The question is, how much did we budget? We already passed our budget. So is it $30,000 now that she can use and we're good? Or,
no,
I mean, we don't.
Jeff, I'm sorry. That's
Attila, please, I'm speaking right now.
I apologize.
Thank
Jeff.
you.
I apologize.
I don't know what that budget is, and it's not within this memo, and it's those unknowns that doesn't give me that warm and fuzzy feeling that we're using the supplemental service that, in all honesty, I know how many other districts utilize that service. Again, legal service, that's a totally different ballgame. This is PR. We're trying to sell our district and things within our district. And so it is one of those, it's more of, while, yes, it's a necessity, our necessity is to educate our kids. While, yes, I understand that we want to promote our district and have people come within our district, our core value is our children. Does it fit in that core value? That's something, it's a luxury expense that we need to be very frugal about. And again, that's why I'm going to vote no. I don't know what those numbers are.
Can you give me specific questions you'd like answered?
What's our communication plan? What have they done?
Many hours.
What does that mean, what have they done?
Well, what have they produced?
Okay.
I mean, again, none of the correspondence says...
Yeah, I got it. What
Okay.
they produced.
How many hours that they've dedicated each month?
You want that for 2 years?
Sure. What we anticipate the budget's going to be like for the balance of the year.
You mean under the current contract?
Well, I would hope that contract goes away.
It's not a contract, it was an agreement, so it goes away the moment that I can't remember the...
The terms of it said we had to give them 60 days notice. I would call that a contract.
And I had a conversation with Joe Donovan, who said, I said to him, Joe, the agreement, we could make the agreement December the 1st to December 31st. We could make it December the 1st to November 30th. He said, Attila, whatever it is the board would like. So we made it January 1st, but if you wanted to back that up, we could do that too. So we will not owe Joe anything, or the Donovan Group, anything more the moment that the board passes a new agreement. And in fact, he's agreed to end the agreement whenever we say.
I mean, that's a different issue that we can...
Well, you asked that, though. That's why I'm asking you.
Well, I guess my concern is that, again, this board has never formally approved that agreement. Under our own policies, anything over $20,000, the contract has to be brought forward for the board's approval. $20,000 in a calendar year, we spend 30.
Right, but that's...
And we can sit here in place.
We're done with that. What we're doing is moving forward. So I want to know what you want to know to move forward.
What would be our budget for the balance of the year anticipated for this PR consulting, or whatever you want to call it?
Jeff, under the old one, or the balance of the old one is whenever we want to end it. I could pick up the phone tomorrow and say, Joe, we're done with that, and the board's going to start January 1, February 1 with the new one. So
I guess you're not understanding.
I think he just wants an estimate of what you think we'll spend
If we
next year.
started this new contract, what's the estimate?
Thank you. I got it now.
And what did you put in the budget?
I'll have to check with Bill about that.
And what's left of it, yeah.
Well, I mean...
Jeff?
I just had two questions. One, are we obligated to use them at all, even though, okay, so if we don't call them, we don't need them, we don't pay anything? Okay, second question is on this list of services that Donovan Group is providing, how many of those items are in the job description of Sarah's job description?
Well,
Is this all, are these all her responsibility?
I haven't matched it, Jeff, but I do want to respond a little bit to what Jeff said. I don't think the picture that was painted was entirely clear. So first of all, the policy about the $20,000, that went into effect after this was done. I don't know what the old policy said, but we're talking about two different times here. Number two is that this was an engagement, and it was to service us at a time when we had no PR person at all. And Sarah was hired as 50% administrative assistant to the superintendent and 50% public relations coordinator. So We've moved some duties over to our Bliss receptionist, but she's still the administrative assistant. So it is not that we have a PR coordinator full-time. So there are still going to be times when she's going to need help to do that job, because she's trying to do two jobs at once, similar to Gwen trying to do the board secretary position and the administrative assistant at the same time. Quite frankly, either of those situations were and are very, very difficult to manage. So I haven't done the match, Jeff.
Okay, so it's a matter of hours then, not necessarily...
It is, and it's also a matter of trust in terms of trying to get our PR coordinator to be able to access assistance when she needs it.
Okay, we were doing great on time. Let's wrap this up. Do we have any other questions or comments? We have a motion and a second on the table.
I would really like to see to postpone this until we get that information that we have asked. So I don't know if they will pull their motion and their second so we can get this information. Yes?
We're moving from $30,000 for sure to $150 an hour. We're money way ahead to move to $150 an hour. In the short time that I have worked with Sarah, I have all the confidence in the world that she is going to do the great job that she does, and she's going to reach out to this consultant when she is encountering a situation that she's not comfortable handling herself, and I am more than willing to give her that. So I'm going to support this.
Well, how about if either way, whatever the vote does, that we get this information anyway?
I'd be glad to do it if that's what the board wants me to do.
I think they're good questions.
Well, I would like to see this postponed, because once the vote goes through, there's no guarantee we're going to get the information, and you can't keep going back and forth as you want the dollar amount in one thing and not the other thing. It's just very confusing. Maybe that's why I don't.
Okay, so we have...
Very confusing.
I have 4 questions written down. We have a motion and a second. You're not withdrawing it?
No.
All right, then we need to vote.
One more
Yes.
question. If, for instance, Sarah wasn't in that position, then we'd be using Donovan a whole lot more until the next person is able to...
Only with the superintendent's approval.
Okay. So if that individual, if Sarah wasn't there and it was a different individual, needed that constantly, you wouldn't approve it? Is that what you're saying?
You know, Alex, I have a fair amount of discretion in terms of what I approve and not approve in terms of budget. And I don't do that very lightly, because I'm very well aware, and have been for 4+ years, of the financial condition of this district and what it takes to open schools every day. So my answer to your question would be, we would only use that service when we needed it. And we would do everything we could to get somebody as an administrative assistant with a PR background back into that position. So it's a matter of fiscal responsibility, and we engaged Joe Donovan at a time when I believed that we needed it, but I was also very, very strongly pushed and encouraged and supported by our board president at the time to do that. So I was very reluctant to even think about a full-time position, again, for the same reason that Jeff indicated. It is somewhat of a luxury, given if you're in financial straits. But at $150 an hour, with somebody who's already half-time PR coordinator, I think it's reasonable, and I don't think it would be abused. I really don't.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Yep.
200 hours. Just let you know, 200 hours will put us back at that $30,000. And I still think that's unacceptable. And I think shame on you if you vote to push it through without getting the information. Shame on you.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Would you poll it so we can just get the information? I mean, what's a little bit, another meeting?
Is this at all time sensitive, Attila?
Well, to be very frank, we want to discontinue the current engagement.
Because we're paying $2,000 a month now.
$2,500, but again, I want to end that, and Joe knows that, and he's fine with that, because I have a good relationship with him. And I don't want to leave Sarah hanging out there. We've got, here's just an example. You're paying a firm to do a superintendent search. And I will tell you as I sit here that Sarah O'Donnell is doing a lot of work for that. And she's never done a superintendent search before. And so she's in touch with Ray and Associates, the woman at Ray and Associates, not the two consultants. And she's in touch with Joe. Help me here. How do I navigate this stuff? So is it timely for the board? It's very timely. So I don't want to leave her hanging out there. You know, I mean, I'll get the information. I'll get the information. The one piece that I don't know about is whether or not he has kept a detailed record of the number of hours. But the estimated budget, what's currently in the budget, what has he produced in the communications plan? I can get that for you. If not tomorrow, I can get that to you on Monday. Those are done.
So if we don't do this vote, we're going to pay them for the month of December, $2,500?
No, we won't. We won't, but you won't have anything, I mean, then I can't engage Joe. So we'll end this November the 30th with Joe, and...
December 8th, we can vote on it again with the information.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, you're in the middle of a superintendent search. You just discussed a timeline. Sarah is daily in touch with Molly over at Ray and Associates. I just don't want to leave her hanging.
My question is if Ray and Associates are calling her, why aren't they giving her advice of how to do it? Why are we paying someone else? So we're paying two people to do our superintendent search.
I can't answer that question. All I can tell you is
she should be getting the information from Ray and Associates. I understand that part, but...
Yes, Chris.
You know, I think there are a lot of things that go on in a district, and I don't think any of us are in the midst of the operations, both at every level. You know, you might ask, why is a teacher doing this? Why is an administrator doing this? We hire people to do a job. We pay them a good salary, and they use the tools that they have so we can get this done.
That's what we do.
We can get the information. And Kim, your remarks, there's no guarantee, you know, that's really inappropriate. And shame on you if you vote this way. Really, Kim? Send that message out to every potential superintendent. This is the board you're going to be working
Okay,
with.
let's finish. Let's do this vote.
So, if I understand right, the time between when our contract would end, November 30th,
Shame on you.
and the next board meeting, we would be without their assistance for 1 week.
Yeah, we'd be without it for a week, but there's
And
no...
during the holiday time that you're talking about, when people are busy with other stuff and
Yes,
they
that's
won't be-
exactly what he's saying.
Right.
Got it.
So hold on. So Sarah might be engaged in other things anyway, and she's not going to devote that much time to the superintendent search as well.
I don't think it's fair to assume or presume what somebody's workload is when you're not there every day. And I don't mean that as a slight, Alex. I really mean that as honestly. You don't know what her workload and daily life is like. I do. I see it every single day. And she's working hard with Ray and Associates to project an image for this district that would want people to apply. She is committed to this district. She has 3 children in this district.
Okay.
She wants
I'm
to...
going to cut you off. We need to move forward with this. We need to take the vote. Let's go.
Ms. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Ebel?
Yes.
Ms. Erler?
Yes.
Ms. Faxon?
Yes.
Mr. Kokonowski?
Abstain.
Mr. Presley?
No.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Sherrick?
No.
Ms. Totten?
No.
Motion carries 3 with 1 extension.
All right. The next thing is the possible addition of a non-binding referendum. Carlin got this information for us.
What information?
I'm holding it. I'm going to read it to you. If we add a question on a scheduled election day, it costs us about $3,000. If we do our own thing where we're just asking people a question and we want them to set it all up, it's $40,000. Those are our 2 options. $3,000 to add a question on an election day, $40,000 to have our own.
Well, to me, it's a no-brainer. You go with the 3,000, and you want as many people as you can get to the polls. And if you do your own referendum, it's not going to typically it's not going to happen. I would like to see either a spring or a fall non-binding referendum put out there to the public.
Yes.
What are we going to do a referendum on?
It's a non-binding, so it's just asking a question.
On what?
Question.
What's the question?
Well, the Consolidated Task Force recommendations, if we went through with all of them, it's close to, what, $100 million, $98 million?
This district is laughing at us that we can't even get a superintendent search going, and they're never going to support $90 million.
That's not what I requested to ask. This is twice I've been asking. I basically wanted them to put for grade realignment, is ask the public, because that was one thing when I was at the Consolidated Task Force, is that there was members there that said maybe we should take this to the public first, is the grade realignment, and then updating boundaries for each school. It's been 20-some years since we've upgraded our boundaries, and we need to shift them. This is what the public has been stating to me. These are the two things. If my agenda item, I guess, would have been put on there the way I requested it, then were the two questions that I would like to see added on to the election for this spring.
Okay.
Yes or no questions? Do you want a grade realignment, and do you want what?
Updating, I'm not quite sure the wording, the boundaries of each school, changing the alignment.
Okay. Chris?
So the board filled out a form of priorities, and the Consolidated Task Force was the last one of the 5, right?
Right, but in order to get this on a spring election, we have 70 days prior, and we need to
Right, I
decide.
understand that, but how does this fit into the whole picture of what we want to do? We don't have a final recommendation. We haven't looked at all the things from that Consolidated Task Force. How do we know that this is something that will fit in with this and we want to do? Why would we put a referendum question out there just to find out if people want that when we don't even know if it's something that would fit in with what our recommendation would be from the task force?
If they don't want it, then we don't have to waste our time continuing to go forward with it.
Exactly.
I think that's important to know.
Yeah, it is important to know, but I don't see it as a plan. I think we need to at least look at what we're going to do, and this is like pulling something out of the air that somebody suggested this is something we should do. I mean, I've heard about grade realignment for a number of years, and also redistricting and all that. I mean, you have to have a picture of what you're doing, what steps you want to take to move forward. This is just, hey, let's see if everybody wants to do a realignment.
So you're saying all the work the Consolidated Task Force to make that suggestion was just out of the blue, out of the hat?
No, but
they suggested it, and I'm bringing it forward because they brought that forward in one of the meetings. And I believe I want to know what the community thinks about it, and if we don't do it for this election, we lost that opportunity unless we spend $40,000, which some people don't have a problem spending that kind of money. $3,000 is better budget. Throw it on there. If we don't do anything with it, we spent $3,000 worse before. I just think it's a good opportunity to do it, and it was requested by the Consolidated Task Force. I guess not by the Consolidated Task Force members in there suggested it.
Jeff?
I have to agree with Chris. If you are going to put a referendum out, you have to know exactly what it is you are trying to accomplish. That means that this board has to come up with a decision to say, this is what we are proposing. And then this is a great opportunity to use a PR firm, because you need a lot of PR out there to explain the referendum and exactly what you're trying to accomplish. And I don't think that you have the time. If we have a very limited window, when does this have to be in? Or
It's 70 days prior, so January 27th.
January 27th. If I think if it can be clearly articulated, and if you can sell me on it, I think that'd probably be a good.
Task Force information.
Yeah, I know it's in there, but what does this board want to do with that? We haven't really sat down and, are we going to take everything in its entirety? Is that what we're going to present? Is there a different priority other than maybe the grade realignment that we should look at first? And we haven't had the time to go over that yet, and we need to do that.
Meg?
And correct me if I'm wrong, but we have this Consolidated Task Force report that came up with a number of recommendations, the linchpin of which is doing a grade realignment. I mean, that's kind of where it started. we are in a situation as a board where, frankly, in my best estimate, we are going to have to go to a binding referendum. We are going to have to put out there to the public, this is what we're recommending. We're recommending grade realignment. We may be recommending switching schedule, because one of the recommendation was grade school starting early, high school starting later. We're going to be recommending certain physical improvements to every building within this district, and we are going to have to go to a binding referendum because the public is going to have to support paying for this. So I just don't know what we get from a non-binding referendum, because ultimately the public's going to have the say in the end. We as the board, based on the recommendations that have come through these various task force, are going to work to try to create that picture for the public about what has been recommended through the task force and what we as a board believe would best work to move our district forward, which is a huge part of our job, and we're going to have to ask them for the money to do it, whatever the dollar amount comes up. And again, I just think I don't know what we get from a non-binding, because we're going to have to go to a binding.
Jeff?
I think our timeline's a little pushed for the spring. I think that's a little unrealistic. The fall, potentially, I think that would be a better time for us. We've got a little more time to, like Jeff said, dissect the report. It's a wish list, and that, if you read that report, some of those items are not necessary. We would just be shifting grades. It doesn't mean that we got to do all the upgrades at Ben Franklin, or, because the situation hasn't changed, there are a number of students. We're just shifting one grade up and one grade out. So we really need to take a strong look at that report and make our financial decisions of what we want to do on our fiscal capacities and, within our buildings. The biggest improvement's going to have to probably be at Spash, but the other ones, there's really no essential change. It's business as usual, just that we've shifted the grades. So we really need to look at that report. I think we would be better off to wait until the fall. I get the point that you want to get out there and see what the grade realignment, I think that's the biggest question, because it really is all encompassing when you ask that question as far as the grade realignment, because there's financial implications, there's implications to the kids moving from schools, there's implications on the parents, there's implications on the students. I don't know. I'd rather wait till the fall.
I've got a question. If we did put that referendum out there, non-binding, and the answer is no, they do not want to change it, are we still going to go forward and look at all the information from the Consolidated Task Force about grade realignment, already knowing that the answer for the public is no? Because that's where it becomes important.
The board would have to decide at that point.
Or are we going to go against the public's wishes?
That sitting board would have to decide at that point.
But I think that's the point.
You want to ask the question first and then decide if you want to commit the resources.
Correct.
I get what you're saying.
Yes. It's really a matter of, do we want, everything has really been based around that. Do we want the public's input ahead of time to help determine how we spend our energy or our time on that task force report?
And I guess what I'm just saying is, we haven't spent a lot of time to say, this is what we really think we should ask the public about. And I have no problem, asking those questions before we do anything. But I don't think we've even spent the time to know what maybe we'll all say, hey, or the sitting board will say, you know what? We don't want the high school any larger. We don't know that, because we haven't even had that discussion. So why would you go out and ask a question when we haven't even decided as a board what those priorities are?
Well, and
that's what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm not saying it's the wrong question. I just think it's the wrong time until we get some more work done and say, this is what they've done. Here's what we want to support as priorities. We need to ask the public. That's all I'm saying. And that's the difference.
Jeff, you've had your hand up for a while?
I would say with 80% certainty that if you put a question out there The answer is going to be no. Unless you plan what you're what you're attempting to do, and you have to make your case. You know, and I've seen referendums fail because I don't believe that the case was made for the referendum. And that's why, again, I think it's really important that this board understand where you want to go and the reasons for doing that, and you have to explain the reasons for wanting to move forward. If you just throw the question out there, if it's going to cost money, they're going to say no.
But it's already been discussed that it's not going to cost what the Consolidated Task Force recommended. You know, it could be done a lot less. We just have to let the public know that.
Well, there might be cheaper ways to do it other than the non-binding referendum. Maybe we could use SurveyMonkey. Maybe there's some other things we could do on the website where we could get input and you could still get the feel for where the community is at.
Sounds good.
Lisa?
I think really this is a philosophy that they're asking about, the public's input on the philosophy. And when you're talking about referendums, Jeff, are you talking about the referendums that are binding referendums or the non-binding referendums?
Well, non-binding, it doesn't make any difference, just what's your opinion. But when it comes, we need a binding referendum.
I know, but when you're making your statements, are you referring to non-binding or are you talking about binding referendums?
Binding, because that's the only one that matters, right? Non-binding doesn't matter.
Well, I disagree. I think non-binding does matter because that's the public's input on and their opinion on something.
So if they say yes for the non-binding and then turn it down on the binding, what good has it done?
Well, if they say yes, then if I was a sitting board member, that would tell me that this is something that the community is interested in, that it's worthwhile for the board to spend their time researching it. If once the research is sort of the question as far as the superintendent group, whether we wanted to pursue looking into it or not. It was a non-binding question whether we wanted to,
I think we have an obligation to look into it anyway.
Okay, I just really wanted to know what you were referring to.
Okay, I think I have a general feel that if we're interested in doing this, interested in discussing it for the fall, not for right now. Is that the general idea I'm getting? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Did you want to make a motion about this, or did you just want to have the
It
conversation?
doesn't need to motion and fail, so I don't want to waste the time. Let's go.
Okay. We are on to 8G5, facility use agreement with Central Rivers Farm Shed.
Are we addressing 8G3?
Sorry, did I skip one?
Yes.
Must not be in the electronic. Sorry.
Listening sessions.
There was no documentation.
Nothing in there.
There was no information in there? All right. Yes.
Did you get something?
No.
We did previous board meeting.
Yep, all right.
That's all.
Listening sessions. Alex,
Sure, if
this is
you,
your baby. Go for it.
Everyone should have got the email that kind of expressed the layout I was suggesting to Attila when I sent it to him originally. I don't think that was fully brought forward at that time, and when Jeff was asking me more about it, I assumed that everyone knew this information, but they did not. So now that you all have it, what I thought about layout, and whatever opinions you think should be added to it or taken out of that, this is what I propose. I could read through it if you want.
So could we put it to the next board meeting? Because there was nothing in the packet. So I don't think, there wasn't.
But you got the email, right?
But for the public, there was no information in the packet. It wasn't presented.
All right.
I'm asking only because there wasn't anything here. And I got the email, but that doesn't mean that it was available for members of the public. And I have no problem. In fact, we're talking about doing a board listening session for these forums. But I think it's important that we have the information in front of us.
Can I make a clarification, Alex? When the issue, because I went back after I got your email, I went back and looked at the board meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of discussion about this listening session idea. And then after a while, I don't know how long, somebody said, well, let's ask the administration to come back and develop a framework for what these listening sessions would look like. I then said, okay, I'll do that. I then sent an email out to the board asking for input about the listening sessions. The only input I got was yours. I took yours and I dissected it, and I said, if you're going to have a listening session, you have to have certain kinds of things answered, including legal counsel, whether or not you should or shouldn't do this, and I got that. And so I put together that memo. It was not an attempt to abridge or to not give the board what you sent. I was asked to do a job, and I took one person's input, yours, and I put it into a format that said, if you're going to have listening sessions, here's the framework, but I also gave options under each one of those at the previous board meeting. So that's where I stand on it. It wasn't an attempt to not give the board what you had sent out. It was a matter of getting input from one person and giving you the information. So I just wanted to make sure that was clarified.
All right, so
So at
Alex,
this point, we cannot have a discussion on the layout that I proposed.
Again, have her print it out and give it to us.
But I mean, Meg made the point that she wanted the public to have the
It
information.
actually should have been
Was it part of
included.
your superintendent's report?
It was either, no, it was a separate memo at the previous board meeting.
Last board meeting.
And it was decided that it was going to be moved to this meeting?
Yeah, that's
But,
what I thought.
so the information should have been included in the packet again. So, because when something is moved,
Right.
the information should have been moved.
And the reason I sent that email is because I noticed that there was nothing in the board packet. So I wanted
And it
everyone to
should
have
have been
something.
there. Because we moved the framework for the board listening sessions and the secretary job description to this meeting.
all right, I have it right here. Would you like me to send it to Amy? She can print it out and we can have this conversation.
I think that would be great. Just an
And it
opinion.
needs to be included in the board packet online also.
Do you mind if we move, while she prints that off, if we move to 8G5 and get that approved?
Sure thing.
Do you want last month's, do you want that framework, or do you want just
Yes,
Alex's?
it was supposed to be here.
Just Alex's.
Well, here it is.
Or do you want to compare the two?
Well, you just need to know about the legal, there were some legal implications that I talked with Mike Joker about. You should probably take a look at those. Did you find it, Meg? Or Tricia?
Yeah, Alex, is this what you want everybody to have?
G3?
G3, right, 9G3,
From the last meeting.
from the last meeting.
Yes.
Well, that was, I think, what Meg was requesting, but the information that,
Alex had sent us an email, board members. I received an email from Alex last Thursday. Well, it was from Amy, forwarded to us, that was
She's printing it off right now.
layout section. But then it wasn't in the packet, so I wasn't.
And it should have been in there.
yes.
See, I don't think I'm getting all my emails.
It was a,
Or from, I got it.
Here it is,
All
here
right,
it is.
you want to, let's go ahead and approve the next.
Can we do that without Amy sitting there?
How is she going to take the minutes?
That's what I said it after I thought about that after the fact. If Amy walked out, can we still vote on the next one?
Our clerk will have to.
Oh, yeah, our consolidated task force was supposed to come back. To this meeting, too?
We're going to take a break.
Yep.
Yay. We will be back at 20 till.
3:40.
Let's
Sharon.
go ahead and start with that.
Yep. Let's go. While we're waiting for the legal pieces of paper, Amy, do you have the?
They're already handed
All
out.
right, yeah, we got it right here.
Okay, so what we have in front of us, we have Alex's email and the layout he did, and then we have the general one that Attila took those ideas, put them together, and laid something out. I'd like to hear the legal ramifications, but while we're waiting for that, the gist of what we'd like to get done is, I think we've already agreed we'd like to do this. Let's get something solid on the calendar, decide what we're going to do, we don't have to decide the topic, but let's just decide the when and the where and the how. Talked to Alex a little bit. Sounds like second Tuesdays 7 o'clock, if we consistently set them up, starting in January. We can ask the library if we can use a room there. An hour.
That's fine, for beginning.
Can we,
Reserve it online.
can we do these in the schools? I would really like to do them in the
Staff
schools.
to keep those doors open.
Yeah, yeah, no.
What was that?
We don't want to incur an extra cost with this.
With
You have
the
to pay to keep the
custodial
doors
staff.
open of the school in the evening.
Yeah, but so many of the schools are open at night anyway.
But if somebody's there, you have to have more staff.
Can you give us the legal ramifications?
Yeah, and I really looked for this because I had a long conversation with Mike about this, and here's essentially his advice. He said that if you were going to hold a listening session, whether there was one board member there or 9, you should notice the meeting. The reason is because, number one, there may be serendipitously people who attend that said they couldn't attend but actually show up. Secondly, if you notice the meeting, you should put on topics. Because if you have an open agenda, then essentially the public doesn't know what you're going to talk about, and it could be left to the whim of 5 people or more to make some decisions. Number three,
Wait a minute, what do you mean, make decisions?
well, there have been court cases where board members have had, whether they're special meetings or meetings that have been noticed, but there hasn't been necessarily an agenda item, they've made decisions, and then they've gotten themselves into trouble. So he says, notice the meeting, regardless of how many people are there, and make sure that you have agenda topics that you're going to discuss. He said the danger of having an essentially open session, open forum, where you can let people come in is that the board members really are there just to listen. They really shouldn't respond or interact, because then you're beginning to have a conversation about something that was not agended, or noticed on the agenda, rather. So his advice actually was not to do this, but I said to him, well, as I understand it, some of the conversation that occurred at the board meeting was that people would sign up for specific dates, and they would be at specific places, and that the other board members would stay away to make sure that there wasn't a quorum. And he said, you can't guarantee that, though. And I said, no, but I think the people here are honorable. I think that they would, if they said they weren't going to go and they were going to go on these dates, that they would do that you don't have to worry about that. And he said, well, I'm just your attorney trying to tell you that I don't think that that's a wise thing to do. So he said, but if you're going to proceed, then make sure that you notice them all and that you have agenda topics so that the public knows what it is you're going to talk about.
So, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Just that if we're not responding, why would you need an agenda item? Why couldn't you leave it just open?
Because he said the danger is that people would respond, they would feel compelled to respond and engage the
got it.
conversation.
Sorry. Okay, go
And he
ahead.
was saying, don't put
Got
yourself
it.
in that.
Part of the layout, the second point was a verbal or written requests are submitted by either a board member or by the public in order to use a previously established date for a listening session. So that would be an agenda item that they'd like to talk about a listening session, and we can then post it that way. So it's not going to be an open forum type gathering. It'd be specific to the topic that we're holding a listening session about.
The framework that I gave you was based on my conversation with Mike. That is, that outline was based on that conversation.
All right, let's do this initial attempt. Second Tuesday in January, 7 o'clock. We'll contact the Pinery Room. We'll come up with at least 2 topics that will be noticed. They will be on an agenda, though it does not necessarily mean that there will be a quorum of people there. Yes.
He said that you can just reserve that online.
You can do it online.
Yeah.
Excellent.
You just said contact people, so I just wanted to,
No, it's all online.
yeah.
Yeah. Are we discussing this or not?
Yes.
Okay, because I had some questions and actually some concerns, because I could see this thing becoming more of just like a complaint session, which is okay if that's, again, what your intent is, just allow people to vent. If you're trying to accomplish something, like the strategic plan, like determining the decisions that this board should make moving forward, then, how are you going to control that, I guess? And the discussion or the I think you mentioned that having an agenda is one way to control it, but also who would be a presider for this event? Who would preside?
Sure.
Who would call on speakers? Let's see, okay, we're not discussing it, so it wouldn't be a forum, it would still be a listening session. Would you limit discussion, or I mean, not discussion, but I'm sorry, comments at all? Could people speak as long as they wanted to on any topic, or again, are you focusing at, let's see, what else did I have? And then what are you going to do with the information? So you get all, are we going to, will people submit written statements so that you have a record of it, or would somebody have to keep detailed notes? Because this is different than just recording a motion at a meeting.
Sure.
So, how would that be handled? Let's see, rules of order. Which kind of rules of order are we going to use? Okay, those are my concerns or questions, I guess. And I think that in order for these to be productive, I think, and I'm all for it. I'm glad that you're moving forward with it, but I get concerned, I guess, because we try to use Robert's rules here, and I know that occasionally, this can get out of hand a little bit. So,
Right.
I would be concerned about that.
For instance, let's say you would like to have the board consider a listening session about the consolidated task force, one of the items on there. And you're doing this because you want the public's feedback. So we're holding this session. They show up, whoever has input that they want to give the board who attends, and we hear what they have to say, so that when we come back here, we can have that logical discussion saying, these are what the board members who are actually concerned about it want to know things about. And yes, we could ask them to submit an email if they have that capability, or something in writing. Why can't we take good notes? I think we can.
Who's we?
Whoever attends. I mean, if you're the one holding it, I would think you'd attend. Now, it doesn't sound like you want to.
As a presiders usually shouldn't take notes, but...
You're not going to take notes?
Well, no, the presider
As the
doesn't.
presider.
As a presider,
The person who's running the meeting.
Well,
someone has to be listening and writing, specifically taking, and that's their only task with the meeting.
Well, I mean the individuals who attend.
And we just had a discussion that the consolidated task force, we don't even know where we stand on it, and you're going to ask the community.
As an example, use anything else you want. It doesn't matter. Just an example.
Okay.
Part of it for me, I was thinking, because I know one of the topics that you had raised was bullying.
Sure.
As a forum topic going forward. And so I just started thinking about, it's a listening session, but are we as a district also going to provide information? Because I don't know what we currently, as a district, are doing about bullying. I'm assuming we have specific plans or programs that we're using at the grade school level, and we're using them at the middle school level, and we're using them at the high school level. So if someone came to a forum and I happened to be the board member sitting there and they were asking questions or raising concerns about that topic, I wouldn't know who to direct them to. And I wouldn't know what information to provide them. So part of it for me was just a question. Are we as a board there for the purpose of having people provide us with questions or concerns that then will be followed up? Or are we or are we planning on providing them with information? So, for example, a listening session on bullying would provide information to the public about what we're doing, say, at the middle school level or the high school.
Megan, I'm going to stop you because I have an idea that can wrap this up. Alex, if you at the December 8th meeting can provide us with kind of the outline for the first listening session, come up with a couple of questions or topics that you'd like to be there, and kind of, I think it would help it would bring the questions that need to be asked forward, and it would allow us to see what your intent is. You know what I mean? I think we get the gist of it, but so show up December 8th with, this is the January blah, blah, blah.
Can you actually have it the Thursday before that? Or have it to me that Wednesday before the meeting so that we can get it in the packet?
Which, so the Wednesday before the second Tuesday of January, is that
No,
what you're saying?
it would be the 4th. I would need it before
Thursday.
11 o'clock on
Wednesday,
Thursday.
December
Oh,
4th.
okay.
No, 4th is the Thursday.
Thursday, I need it before 11 a.m.
And then it'll be in the packet, and then we can have the discussion with, this is what we're doing in January. You can kind of talk about what you're going to do. People can say, check your availability, second Tuesday in January. I don't know
Who's
the date.
taking notes, how, you know?
Well, and it can be a learning
questions.
process too. I mean,
Sure.
Mike Joko was very, very emphatic about this. He said, you have to remember that when you notice this kind of a meeting, it is a meeting. It's a meeting of a governmental body.
Yeah,
And there are rules and procedures in order that need to be established when you do that. So a lot of Jeff's questions were actually on point because it's a meeting of a governmental body. It's not just a group of people that want to hear what other people have to say. So you have to, he said, you have to keep that in mind, that you're triggering the meeting of this governmental body. And for as much as you want to make it informal, there are some real landmines out there.
Yes, Lisa.
so then wouldn't this really be considered more of a gathering? And just like the Ron Kind situation when he came and we discussed, and that was a gathering. Is this different from that?
I didn't ask him that, Lisa.
I think it would.
Okay, we're going to move this. Sorry, we're really trying to be respectful of bad roads and getting people out of here at a reasonable hour. We have a closed agenda. We've agreed we're going to talk about this on the 8th specifically. We have a date set. Let's move on to the farm shed issue. Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the attached facility use agreement between the district and the Central Rivers Farm Shed, Inc. for the use of their Jackson Elementary School as presented.
Second.
Any questions?
It actually needs to be as amended, not as presented, because there was a typo in the original contract with the wrong date on it. So,
With the revised revision?
yeah,
Okay.
it needs to be.
Okay.
As
Can I-
amended, I think is fine.
Good catch.
And we had a second. I did have a question, though. This is the second year, correct?
Right.
Same location in the,
Correct, the music room.
but this said the
Portable classrooms.
portable classrooms, and we were
This one
concerned
here?
about the carpet.
The new one?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
new one?
Yeah,
We were concerned about the carpet in the portable classrooms.
yeah, it says here farm shed.
That's why we moved it to the music room, is because.
Right, no,
Right,
I'm
because of the carpets.
I apologize. It should have said the music room.
It's
because
like-
that's
It doesn't,
exactly what,
yeah.
The third paragraph.
yeah, I'm looking
Yep,
at
okay.
that, thank you.
Well, in here and down in the availability in 2A, it does say in the music room.
Yeah, throughout the body, it says music room,
Music
but you're
room,
right, in
yeah.
the recitals,
Oh,
it doesn't.
it should, if you can say the music room in the second whereas and make it as amended, I'll
Yeah.
change the contract.
Second, the amended.
Well, and that whereas also needs it to be April of 2015.
Through 2015, which was the typo that occurred at the end, too.
Yep.
So we fixed that.
Yep, that was already fixed.
Okay, music room change, 2015 change twice. We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Roll call vote.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Sherrick?
Yes.
Ms. Totten?
Yes?
Ms. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Ebel?
Yes.
Ms. Erler?
Yes.
Ms. Faxon?
Yes.
Mr. Kokonowski?
Yes.
Mr. Presley?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Okay. I think we actually did it. All right, closed session.
We
This
have
is,
one more.
No, that's when we come back.
Oh, sorry.
it's going to take me a while to read this. I apologize, but it needs to all be read. 19.85, Parent 1, Parent C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction, specifically negotiations with AFSCME, SPAEA, and Teamsters. 19.85, Parent 1, Parent C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction, specifically two principals. And 19.85, Parent 1, Parent C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction. 19.85, Parent 1, Parent E, deliberating or negotiating the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require closed session. 19.82, Parent 1, governmental body, excludes any such body or committee or subunit of such body which is formed for or meeting the purpose of collective bargaining under subchapter 1, 4, or 5 of Chapter 111, specifically the implementation of the 2013-2014 collective bargaining final offer from the district to AFSCME. The motion to go into closed session, please.
So moved.
Second.
Meg, did you want to make a statement?
Yes, I'm going to ask Lisa if she is going to recuse herself, and if so, is going to remove herself from the room.
I am recusing myself. I am not leaving the room.
Roll call vote?
Mr. Kokonowski.
Abstain.
Mr. Presley.
Yes.
Ms. Scott.
Yes.
Ms. Sherrick.
I would prefer to do this in open session, but no, it can be done in closed session. No.
Ms. Totten.
I would prefer this be done in open, but no, it may be done in closed. No.
Ms. Baker.
Yes.
Mr. Ebel.
Yes.
Ms. Erler.
Yes.
Ms. Faxon.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-2 with one abstention. They're in closed session.